Now let's see if I'm streaming. I'm having so many problems with YouTube.
Now let's see if I'm streaming. I'm having so many problems with
I'm so tired of this.
with YouTube. I really can't wait till I can upgrade this computer. I'm so tired of this. I know other people have issues with it too, but it's very frustrating to try to be building something and have it be like this. This isn't helping me.
One day, I can be a real creator.
One day, I'll grow up and be a real creator.
I think I did it. I think I fixed it. Ah! Okay, if anybody's over on YouTube, you can let me know.
I did it.
Fix it. Did
I think I fixed it.
Are we working?
Okay, if anybody's over on YouTube, you can let me know. Did I fix it? Did I fix the sound? Are we working? I think we are.
We're going to
I
finish
think
up
fix it. We're on YouTube.
and move on.
Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to finish up Numbers and move on. I'm so sorry it took 12 years for us to get this far in the Bible.
But I guess less so now that I'm not a Christian.
I didn't really enjoy reading it when I was a Christian, but I guess less so now that I'm not a Christian.
I need more shares. You
know,
if you
what
could
can I
just
say?
hold down my picture and
It's
send
just
it
not
to
that
like
fun.
everybody on
I need more shares, you guys. If you could just hold down my picture and send it to like everybody on your list.
And then
I need to get 100 shares ASAP. And then
Rabbi, do you want to join me
I
this morning?
need
We're
to
going
get
Numbers 34.
5,000 likes ASAP. Hey, Rabbi, do you want to join me this morning? We're going over Numbers 34 through 36. And I'd love your input on as we read through the text. If you're available, of course. You guys, Rabbi Han is in the house. Make sure you're following Rabbi Han. She
I saw
is
you there
amazing.
too. Welcome in.
Silly Goose, good to see you. Welcome in. KJ, I saw you there too. Welcome in. Welcome in, everybody.
Convenient.
I have not been live this week because I had a small minor medical inconvenience. I have really bad leg pain for some reason. Hey, Morgan, good to see you. Starry, good to see you. Welcome in. And so they're worried about deep vein thrombosis, which can be serious.
Freaked me out about it, and then.
But apparently, they're only worried enough to freak me out about it,
and so if you like,
not
I know until
actually read the ultrasound. And so if you like, how I know until you read that ultrasound? Somebody needs to go read my ultrasound. Tell me if I have deep vein thrombosis.
Thank you.
Anyway, so I've been dealing with that for the past couple of days.
That's the good news. I think that it is something.
Thank you. I don't think that's what it is.
Serious, like
that's the good news. I think that it is something
less like cyst or water.
Serious, like probably a Baker's cyst that is like cyst or water like around the knee, behind the knee, and that can be treated with just physical therapy, ibuprofen, compression socks, things like that. But we can't treat the pain until we know what it is. So I just sit in pain and kind of tired of that. If you're friendly, I'd love any friendly to come up in the box and hang out with me today. I really hate being alone. Like, I know there's lots of creators who are like, I only want ops forever and always, but that's just not me because I hate talking to myself.
How are you?
I hate it so much. Hey, Rabbi, how are you?
Oh, now I can hear you. Didn't have my volume up. Oh no, it's doing that thing with my sound again where you
didn't have my
I
volume.
have to restart you guys because it's me.
Oh no, it's doing that thing with my sound again where you sound. I have to restart you guys because it's me. Rabbi sounds demonic right now, and I know she's not.
So I'll be right back.
I think that side of me is finally coming out.
You just stay where you're at.
I wish you guys could hear it. It's so weird. I'll be right back, everybody. Okay.
Like autism, and the one loves Ratatouille. So I bet you if I asked her, she's probably seen Ratatouille 3,000 times. So that is so cute.
Dexter, welcome in. Good afternoon. How are you? How does it make you sick? The first POV is emotion sickness on killer. Mac, how are you? Welcome. Loyal, welcome in. How do I expect to get better without practice? Exactly. You can get better unless you practice. Dexter, how are you doing? Yeah, we got Warcraft playing. Chester first come first serve. Exactly. I'm doing good, Dexter. Somebody said Chester first come first serve, so she can be mad about all she wants, that Kate. Yo, and Harold, thank you for the follow. Welcome. What's up, Walter? Yep. I cannot say no to fried chicken. No, it's all about, I love popcorn chicken. Sass, how are you? Steven, what's up? I'm working on my assignment with your live. Let's go, Rogers. Yo, howdy, head. What's up, how are you? What's going on with this silence? I just realized I'm freaking plaything. I'm sorry, they didn't put this plaything. I can't do this little thing on the right screen. I need to put up in big words on my screen. You have plaything. You are oblivious right now. Good morning, Nanny Bunny. How are you? I woke up and brought on every day we started watching Lion King, whatever Disney thinks every movie wants next. I love that so much. There's so many good ones. Oh, you watched Aladdin close to 3,000 times? Yo, welcome back, Silly Boy. My slice of ramen done. Let's go. My brother said I need to stop watching kid movie, and it's great since I watch kid movie. Good thing for people. It is a good thing for people. Nope, she's a bot. She can go in a second. We can fully heal too while she just hangs on that hook. She just hangs on that hook. Crystal, how are you? Put some little plaything I watched. Steve. What is going on? Okay, well now I'm just gonna go get Kate. Maybe she'll heal the rest.
Okay, I think the sound is fixed because that sounded normal. So we'll try.
Okay, I think the sound is fixed.
Okay, you two.
Because that sounded normal. So we'll try again. Okay, you two, let me know if the sound is fixed over there. I'd appreciate it. If it is not, I don't know how to fix YouTube. I've done what I can.
Okay.
Hopefully it's fixed on the YouTube as well.
We will
now. Okay, and we're back. Take two. Good morning, everybody. We will listen to another song while we get going over here and get some people in. Start retapping that screen, doing all the stuff you were doing a minute ago, and we'll get going again.
Oh, you sound beautiful. That is so much better.
Okay, how do I sound now?
It was so
Oh, you sound beautiful.
It is the weirdest.
That is so much better.
Really everything starts to
It was so bad. It is the weirdest thing. It's really everything sounds demonic, but the first time I hear it is when somebody on the piano speaks, and I'm like, oh, hey. I don't know. It's a new thing that happens every once in a while when I start up TikTok. I don't know why. They always like to come up with new glitches
We're going to be
for
doing Bible study first, then we'll do some
It's never the same. Hey, Juan, if you want to come on up. We're going to be doing Bible study first, and we'll do some conversations with Christians. We're in Numbers, and we get to finish Numbers today. We're going to be in Numbers 30.
That's what we're doing tonight.
What are you doing?
I am doing the verb breakdown of Hebrew of Psalm 91 with my friend
I wanna
Davis
watch
on
that.
his
That's
YouTube
amazing.
live tonight.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I want to watch that. That's amazing.
If you go to Kip's channel at 5, I'll be there.
Dr. Kips.
Okay, all right, you guys. We've got to check out Rabbi Hana on
That's so exciting.
Dr. Kips' show tonight and learn some Hebrew.
Yeah,
That's so exciting.
Of Psalm 91, which did you know is considered an exorcism text?
No, I did not.
It was. It is part of some of the psalm texts that were used as exorcism texts back in the day.
Welcome in. Welcome in,
That is
everybody.
crazy. Hey, Nancy, good to see you. Bree, Fitchy Finch, welcome in. Welcome in, everybody.
100 shares.
Keep tapping the screen, sharing out the live. I need to get up to 100 shares as quickly as possible. So hold down my face. A whole list of people are going to come up,
please,
and just start hitting them all, okay?
I'm hitting them all.
If you can for me, please.
Also, I gotta tell you something, Crystal, that happened that I didn't know until yesterday. And when I found out yesterday, I cried because I didn't know. I was talking about my friend Dan's book, about what the Bible says so.
Yeah.
And I was saying that I've listened to a bunch of times. I do have a hard copy, but I have it on Audible, and I listen to it a lot. And somebody, Ike, I don't know if you know Ike the Third. He's a mutual of mine, but he was like, "Oh yeah, my favorite rabbi is mentioned in the book." And I was like, "Oh, who's your favorite rabbi?" And he's like, "You, doofus." And I'm like, "I'm not mentioned in the book." And he's like, "Yes, you are." I'm like, "I am." And he's like, "Yeah, in the acknowledgments." And I'm like, "I've never gone that far. I just go to the conclusion. I go to the end of the book, and I kind of start over." So I pulled out my hard copy, and I go looking, and sure as shit, there I am. He's like, "I'd like to thank Shanti and a few other are my friends, and Rabbi Hana, Kip Davis, Josh Bowen," and I'm like, "Oh my God!"
Aww.
Wow, that's really cool.
I started crying. I was like, I had no idea how to text him. I was like, I've had this book for a year, and I never even looked, and I'm so sorry. I'm so grateful. I'm so humble. Thank you so much.
Well, listen, we're going to listen to one of my songs real quick while we keep tapping the screen live. This is my song.
Well, listen, we're going to listen to one of my songs real quick while we keep tapping the screen, sharing out the live. This is my song called You Saw It. It is about Hagar, and it's one of my favorites. I love Hagar.
start my non-believers Bible study up on Wednesdays, I get believers.
Inevitably when I start my non-believers Bible study up on Wednesdays, I get believers in the audience who say, if you're not a believer, why are you studying this? And I find that very weird to ask me in the year of our Lord, Bad Bunny 2026, when I literally have our military leaders telling our military that they are fighting a holy war against Iran. And you want me to not study the very text that they are using for their propaganda. I refuse to be ignorant.
As you were saying these very things, my wife just sent me an article literally where military troops were being told that Trump was anointed by God.
And you can remain ignorant if you
and they're told this is a
I will not remain ignorant. I will,
and you can remain ignorant if you want
come
to.
along with me for the education.
I will not remain ignorant.
And that's it.
I will educate myself, and anybody who wants to come along with me for the education, I'll bring them with me, and that's it.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry that you don't understand that.
The Bible is fucking fascinating. Think about the way that it has helped formulate and form centuries and centuries of communities, of civilization. Why wouldn't you want to study and figure out shit like that?
I do have an
Auntie
Sermon today. It is
Exactly.
several.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. I do have an Auntie Sermon today. It is about Serah, S-E-R-A-H.
We'll go ahead and
Now,
I like to read a
not
paragraph.
Serah. So we'll be talking about her after we're done here, and we'll go ahead and dig in. Now, I like to read a paragraph, and then I like to ask the rabbi if she has any commentary that she wants to share with us on the scriptures that we read. Okay, and then if you have any questions, we're starting in Numbers 34.
Oh, I turned right to it. Can you believe that?
Oh, that's so cool.
I opened up my Quran and turned right to it.
I love
That is really
words
cool.
from you all the time.
I don't know what Humash is, but I learned it words from you all the time.
The Quran is in the words of the Bible of
Command the
Moses.
Israelites and say to them, when you enter the land of
here we
Canaan,
go.
this is the land.
The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, command the Israelites and say to them, when you enter the land of Canaan, this is the land that shall fall to you for an inheritance. The land of Canaan, defined by its boundaries. Your south sector shall extend from the wilderness of Zin along the side of Edom. Your southern boundary shall begin from the end of the Dead Sea on the east. Your boundary shall turn south of the ascent of Aquabim,
Then it shall
and
go
cross
on
to Zin, and its outer limit shall be south of Kadesh Barnea. Then it shall go on to Hazar Adar and cross to Azmon. The boundary shall turn from Azmon to the Wadi of Egypt, and its termination shall be at the sea.
the boundary. So for the western
I'm just going to read this little section, and then we can talk
for the
about the
western
whole
boundary,
section
you shall have the great
because it's all about the boundary. So for the western boundary,
this shall be your northern
okay.
boundary.
For the western boundary, you shall have the Great Sea and its coast. This shall be your western boundary. This shall be your northern boundary. From the Great Sea, you shall mark out your line to Mount Hor. From Mount Hor, you shall mark it out to Lebo Hamath, and the outer limit of the boundary shall be at Zedad. Then the boundary shall extend to Zephron, and its end shall be Hazar Anan. This shall be your northern boundary. You shall mark out your eastern boundary from Hazar Anan to Shepham,
the east side
Shepham. And the boundary shall continue down from Shepham to Riblah on the east side of Ain. And the boundary shall go down and reach to the eastern slope of the sea of Chinnereth. And the boundary shall go down to the Jordan, and its end shall be at the Dead Sea. This shall be your land with its boundaries all around. Moses commanded the Israelites, saying, This is the land that you shall inherit by lot, which the Lord has commanded to give to the 9 tribes and to the half tribes, for the tribe of the Reubenites by their ancestral houses, and the tribe of the Gadites by their ancestral houses, have taken their inheritance, and also the half tribe of Manasseh. The 2 tribes and the half tribe have taken their inheritance beyond the Jordan at Jericho eastward toward the sunrise. What should we know about this portion of the scriptures?
Honestly, all this is really talking about is the borders. It describes boundaries of Eretz Israel. It is talking about the Great Sea and the Mediterranean, and it seems a little like it repeats itself a little bit. So there is some opinion that teaches that any part of the Mediterranean Sea that is opposite the west coast of Eretz Israel is included in the territory of Eretz Israel, like even as far as the Atlantic Ocean. But there's also another opinion that says that the extra word is the teaching that we are now to draw a line from that northernmost point of Israel to its southernmost point, and that part of the sea is within our boundaries, but no farther than that. It just depends on like who you lean with in terms of the opinion of that.
I know, it's taken me forever
Okay.
to get through this
I'll
because
be
it
honest with you,
so
numbers
much.
are always boring to me.
But we're almost done.
It's taking me forever to get through this because it bored me so much. Okay, but we're almost done. We're like in the home stretch, so, you know, we're able to finish this up here finally. Hey, Nicholas, how are you?
Sure.
Yep.
Moses commanded the Israelites, saying, This is the land
Can
you
you
shall
read
inherit by
verse
lot,
13
which the
again?
Lord has commanded to give
Sure.
to the 9 tribes and to
Moses commanded the Israelites, saying, This is the land that you shall inherit by lot, which the Lord has commanded to give to the 9 tribes and to the half tribe, for the tribe of the Reubenites by their ancestral houses, and the tribe of the Gadites by their ancestral houses, have taken their inheritance, and also the half tribe of Manasseh. The 2 tribes and the half tribe have taken their inheritance beyond the Jordan at Jericho eastward toward the sunrise.
So the SPL says this is the land you shall apportion by lot, not inherit.
This is the thing, love.
Is it? Okay.
Yes.
So that's it's portion and inherit are the same in this regard.
Yeah, because it is being given to. So you're inheriting, as in you're inheriting it, or it's being given to
Now
you.
to the tribal
Okay.
leaders.
Awesome.
The Lord spoke to
Incredible.
Moses, saying, These are the names of the men who shall apportion
All
the
right.
land to you.
Now
and
to the
the
tribal
leaders.
leaders.
The priests,
The Lord
Levites,
spoke to
and
Moses,
the
saying, These are the names of the men who shall
shall
apportion the land to you for inheritance. The priests, Eleazar and Joshua, son of Nun.
of the tribe.
You shall take one leader of every tribe to apportion the land for inheritance. These are the names of the men of the tribe of Judah: Caleb, son of Jephunneh. I don't know how to see these names. Of the tribe of the Simeonites: Shemuel, son of Ammihud. Of the tribe of Benjamin: Eliad, son of Chislon. Of the tribe of Danites, a leader:
Yogli,
Bukai, son of Jogli.
Josephites,
Of the Josephite,
Yogli.
of the tribe of the
Manassites,
Yogli.
You're doing
Of the Josephites, of the tribe of the Manassites, a leader: Haniel, son of Ephod, and the tribe of the Ephraimites, a leader: Kemuel, son of Shipton, of the tribe of the Zebulunites, a leader: Elizaphan, son of Parnach, of the tribe of Isaac, a leader: Paltiel, son of Azan, and the tribe of Asherites, a leader: Ahihud, son of Shalom, of the tribe of Naphtalites, a leader:
to apportion the inheritance
Pedahel, son of
land of Canaan.
Ammihud, These are the ones whom the Lord commanded to apportion an inheritance for the Israelites in the land of Canaan.
Rabbi Bird
Hey, chat with Kathy. Hopefully my Hebrew will get better on Fridays. Rabbi Bird is teaching us Hebrew in my Discord.
So hopefully
So I just started this
awesome.
week. I know, I'm so excited.
Also,
So hopefully this will get better.
I will say this, and I know I'm plugging it because he's a friend, but I also read through the books before it was published, so I know it's good.
Oh, awesome.
Joshua Bowen has Beginner's Guide to Hebrew, Volume 1 out.
Oh, awesome.
And it's not too expensive, it is really good. It's one that you can work through by yourself or use it as a supplementive for any classes that you might
I would
take.
totally take Dr.
Oh,
Bowen's
okay,
class.
cool. That sounds really good.
Cannot, and
Yeah, I would totally take Dr. Bowen's classes if I could, but I cannot. And
I know that's why
so
he made the book. He's got 2 more volumes coming out too.
And I like it.
And I do love Rabbi Bird's way of teaching us. He's teaching us like this, and I like it. I really like it a lot.
Rabbi Bird is awesome. He's a goat, man.
He taught us how to write boobs using Hebrew letters. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, I can write boobs. Yeah.
I can write boobs.
And booby. And booby. I can write boobs.
I was just thinking to myself, there isn't a lot in the world anymore where you could just write
They
boobs.
do. And so join the Discord and come
More people need to know how to write boobs in Hebrew. That's what I'm saying.
Literally.
And so join the Discord and come learn how to write boobs and
Yeah, he does it on Friday.
Okay, because it's fun.
You said that he's doing it on Fridays?
Yeah, he does it on Friday. We start at 11 a.m. to noon.
You should. You
Pacific
definitely should.
I might have to just
And also,
pop
you
in there
can
and
join
be
us on
like,
Fridays.
Yeah.
Ty here is amazing.
You should.
She
You
records
definitely
for us,
should.
and then she puts
And all of you who can't join us on Fridays, Ty here is amazing, and she records it for us, and then she puts the recording in the Discord for those who need to catch up and do it on their own time. I have to admit, I have not studied this week. I have not had a lot of time.
All right.
I've been,
Here we go. Moving on
running
to
to doctors
35.
and things like that. So it's been kind of a chaotic
We're
week.
so happy. Hey,
All
Ty.
right, here we go. Moving on to 35.
Here's the Queens of Moab by the Jordan of Jericho.
So happy, hey, Tiny. Okay.
From the
In the plains of Moab, by the Jordan at Jericho, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Command the Israelites to give from the inheritance that they possess towns for the Levites to live in. And you shall also give the Levites pasture land surrounding the towns. The towns shall be theirs to live in, and their pasture lands shall be for their cattle, for their livestock, and for all their animals. The pasture lands of the towns, which you shall give to the Levites, shall reach from the wall of the town outward 1,000 cubits all around. You shall measure outside the town for the east side 2,000 cubits, for the south side 2,000 cubits, for the west side 2,000 cubits, and for the north side 2,000 cubits, with the towns in the middle. And this shall belong to them as pasture land for their towns. The towns that you give to the Levites shall include the 6 cities of refuge, where you shall permit a slayer to flee. And in addition to them, you shall give 42 towns. The towns that you give to the Levites shall total 48, with their pasture lands. And as for the towns you shall give from the possession of the Israelites from the larger tribes, you shall take many, and from the smaller tribes you shall take few. Each in portion to the inheritance that it obtains shall give its towns to the Levites. So I guess my main question here is, what is a slayer to flee? What does that mean?
Let me take a look at it again.
NRSV, I don't have
I'm guessing you're using the NRSV UE, right?
It's just the NRSV. I don't have the updated edition.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, okay. Hold on. If I remember correctly, it's supposed to be for refuge. If I remember correctly, the 6 cities of refuge that you provide for a killer to flee there is supposed to be for refuge, but not for. It's usually in, yeah, yeah, they were supposed to, I mean, it says killers to flee there, but it means that you were supposed to provide refuge. The Levites were supposed to provide refuge for those who are fleeing from other nations or from slavery or from
Why are we
something of that
providing
nature.
refuge though for a murderer or a slayer?
So, like, why are we providing refuge though for a murderer or a slayer?
That is a really good question, and I don't have an answer for you.
Okay.
I want to be. I always tell people if I don't know, I can research it and get back to you, but I don't have an answer right off the top of my head.
I'm going to see if I can find anything. Numbers 35, and it's 6.
Why is there refuge for a
Is it 6?
slayer
Yeah.
to flee there? What was the rabbinic teaching on this?
Why is there refuge for a slayer to flee there? What was the rabbinic teaching
You
on
guys,
this?
what did it think I said? Because it did a different.
I forget what it thinks I say when I say rabbinic teaching. You guys, what did it think I said? Because it did a different. It thinks I say rabbit something, but I can't remember what it thinks. This time I thought I said ribbon.
It does not like the word rabbinic. Robin egg. It does. It thinks I
Instead of
say
rabbinic.
robin egg. So whenever we look up the
does
definition,
not like the
we're
word
looking at the
rabbinic.
robin
Robin egg. It does. It thinks I say robin egg. So whenever we look at the rabbinic teaching, we're looking at the robin egg teaching.
unintentional.
So
that's
the
what
purpose was to protect someone who had killed another person unintentionally.
Yeah, that's where that comes from.
Okay.
That comes from Tractate Malchus 10a. So the six dedicated are laid miklat, provide protection from the goal of Adam, even if the killer is not aware. Whereas you cannot provide refuge to a person who is aware. So it's like in self-defense or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, that comes from Malchus 10a. While you were looking at it, I was like, you know what? I need to find out myself. So let me just.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, because like I could see people trying to seek revenge on that person or something, and they're like, no, they didn't do it on purpose. We should give them a place to be safe.
Now notice it's only Levites, though. Speaking of awesome goat rabbi, hello Rabbi Bird.
Hi here. Hi. Did I say?
Hey, there he is.
Hey, Mr. Payne. Come in. Okay.
Hey, Sunny. Hey, Ty here. Hey, did I say hi to you, Bye? Hey, Mr. Pagan. Welcome in.
Across the Jordan to the land of Canaan. Then you shall select
The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the Israelites and say to them, When you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, then you shall select cities to be cities of refuge for you, so that a slayer who kills a person without intent may flee there. The city shall be for you a refuge from the avenger. So that the slayer may not die.
Hello, I'm live. What's up? No. Okay, they might have texted me, though something happened and I couldn't answer or text, so just call them. But don't be mad at first. Just say, have we got those back first, okay? All right, love you. Bye.
Now, but mine later. I'm doing Hebrew with Kip Davis tonight for Psalm 91.
That's so nice. Crystal, so good to see you. I said I have to leave at 11 for a phone call, but I'll be back at 11:15.
Test results from
Okay, sounds good. Doug was calling because I've been waiting for a test result from an ultrasound on my leg to see if I have deep from Moses. And then the doctor ordered a stat, and the lab did stat, and then I made sure the doctor knew that I had done it, and then his office is just like, okay, we'll tell him, and it'll probably be about 3 or 4 days.
What are you talking about? So my husband
What is stat?
That's not what that means.
He can call them now. And
What are you talking about? So my husband was calling to make sure that he can call them now and yell at them. I said,
oh,
Maybe
okay.
stat.
I'm going to tell my daughter.
Maybe stat means sometime after Thursday.
She's going to like that.
oh, okay. I'm going to tell my daughter-in-law as a doctor that. She's going to like that.
I'm going to remember that.
From the lab, it does not matter.
She said that she ordered stuff staff, right? And then she found out from the lab it does not matter. Like this was when she worked at the hospital. This is not the hospital.
So she was like,
but it did not matter to them.
I needed those.
They still just went in the order. And then it was received. So she was like, what? I needed those immediately. What are you talking about? So, yeah, I'm going to tell her a show like that. Okay, so this explains it anyway in verses 9 through 15.
Right, and this is going to be different though. So this is not the Levites, though. This is an area that aren't the Levites that are also providing refuge for someone who unintentionally unalive somebody. I'm trying to make sure I'm using that TikTok language. Because what happens is as I start getting into this, and then it's like, oh, I forgot it. I got to TikTok language.
I have some amazing news that I'd love to share.
Okay, go ahead.
Christy Nome has been fired. She's out.
That is good.
No way.
Yeah.
That is good news after what I heard this morning. I heard this morning that the military are being told that Trump was anointed by God.
Yeah, they're definitely posting that shit, but I think they're trying to put a tamp down on that. It's pretty weird. But
Christy Nome has been fired. I will tell my wife. She's in class, so when she gets out of class, she will be super happy.
it's because she was on an Airbang bus 300 or whatever. Airbang bus 757. That's an inappropriate joke, and I apologize, but she was having sex in the back of a plane that they were using supposedly for ICE. They were using federal dollars to take people using ICE, but they were doing it in the back of the plane. Her and whatever.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it's a huge scandal. It's good news, nonetheless.
That's wild.
Yeah.
One day,
Wow.
What
my grandchildren will say
So back to peak morality.
One day, my grandchildren will say to me, Grandma, how did you find out about Christy Nome being fired? And I'll say, I was on TikTok. And my grandma like,
he interrupted me reading the Bible to tell me.
So sorry.
He interrupted me reading the Bible to tell me that she was screwing somebody on her.
Yeah, okay, we'll see you in a little bit.
Hey, Eddie, how are you?
And then you log off. You have to go make a phone call. All right, talk to you.
Bye. Enjoy your phone call. We'll see you in a little bit.
All right, moving on.
Well, according to Baba 26b, the passage says that a killer shall flee there, one who takes the life unintentionally, emphasizing that exile is only for a person who unalived unintentionally. That not that he forgot something, or that he knew he had a stone in his lap, or that he slipped his mind. However, it is that he is not aware that, or how did he put it? Not aware that the stone was there. Like some of it says that basically, if he accidentally unalived someone through pure accident, not through self-defense, they're also allowed to.
Okay.
So there's that as well. That's from Bob Bakama, 2650.
All right. Concerning murder and blood revenge. Okay.
All right. Concerning murder and blood revenge.
Okay. But anyone who strikes
Andrea, good to see you.
And death,
Inquisitor Bacon. Okay. But anyone who strikes another with an iron object and death ensues is a murderer. The murderer shall be put to death, or anyone who strikes another with a stone in hand that could cause death and death ensues is a murderer. The murderer shall be put to death. Or anyone who strikes another with a weapon of wood in hand that could cause death and death ensues is a murderer. The murderer shall be put to death. The avenger of blood is the one who shall put the murderer to death when they meet. The avenger of blood shall execute the sentence. Likewise, if someone pushes another from hatred or hurls something at another, lying in wait and death ensues, or in enmity strikes another with the hand, and death ensues, then the one who struck the blow shall be put to death. That person is a murderer. The avenger of blood shall put the murderer to death. when they
Please don't
meet.
use all caps and do not spam my chat.
Okay.
Nobody's coming to
So,
Jesus because
Please don't use all caps and do not spam my chat. Nobody's coming to Jesus because you're annoying, okay? People don't come to Jesus when you're annoying.
So I think this is pretty straightforward.
That's when they turn away,
all the
okay?
way.
So I think this is pretty straightforward. Like, it's just listening all the way to, yeah.
Now, what's interesting though is we take from this in terms of Jewish law, because it says that until he stands before the assembly of judgment, that because of this, that we aren't supposed to actually put anyone to death. We're not even allowed to execute a guilty person until they stand before a trial. And we make it very hard in terms of rabbinic Judaism to actually execute anyone.
That's good.
Okay, that's good. Well, that's good.
But if someone pushes
That's
another
good.
suddenly without or hurls an
right.
object without line
But if someone pushes another suddenly without enmity, or hurls an object without lying away, or while handling any stone that could cause death unintentionally, drops it on another and death ensues, though they were not enemies, and no harm was intended, then the congregation shall judge between the slayer and the avenger of blood in accordance with these ordinances. And the congregation shall rescue the slayer from the avenger of blood. Then the congregation shall send the slayer back to the original city of refuge. The slayer shall live in it until the death of the high priest who was anointed with the holy oil. But if the slayer shall at any time go outside the bounds of the original city of refuge and is found by the avenger of blood outside the bounds of the city of refuge, I'm sorry, I have to stop. This just sounds like a kid's game. Hang on, let me finish. And is found by the avenger of blood outside the bounds of the city of refuge and is killed by the avenger, no blood guilt shall be incurred. For the slayer must remain in the city of refuge until the death of the high priest, but after the death of the high priest, the slayer may return home. Okay, so here's what I picture. We are at Bible camp, and we want to play games that are Bible intended, and we play this, what's it called, the Avenger of Blood, okay? And so we're in this big square, and maybe there's some obstacles or whatever. My object as a slayer is to try to sneak out without the Avenger of Blood catching me. But if the high priest gets killed before then I get to go free. But if not, and the Avenger of Blood catches me, I'm out. What do you guys think? It sounds like a good,
I don't know that that's a good children's game.
I know, see, look at it.
I think it would be lovely.
I really think that
I really think that my next punk band is going to be called Avenger of Blood. Like, I like that name. That's got some zhuzh.
Look, they can totally imagine playing that at Vacation Bible School. I can too. I think it's a great.
See, look, they can totally imagine playing that at Vacation Bible School. I can too. I think it's a great game.
Okay.
It sounds metal as fuck. It really does. It is. It's for Baptists. Okay, we're going to finish up this chapter right now. These things shall be a statute and ordinance for you throughout your generation wherever you live. If anyone kills another, the murderer shall be put to death on the evidence of witnesses. But no one shall be put to death on the testimony of a single witness. Moreover, you shall accept no ransom for the life of a murderer who is subject to the death penalty. A murderer must be put to death. Nor shall you accept ransom for one who has fled to a city of refuge, enabling the fugitive to return to live in the land before the death of the high priest. You shall not pollute the land in which you live, for blood pollutes the land, and no expiation can be made for the land, for the blood that is shed in it, except by the blood of the one who shed it. You shall not defile the land in which you live, in which I also dwell. For I, the Lord, dwell among the Israelites.
That's a good question. Darren says, so what happens to...
Yeah, that's a good question. Darren says, so what happens to vengeance is mine, thus saith the Lord, if we have a blood avenger?
That's part of the reason why the Sanhedrin established that you cannot just go around on the basis that vengeance is supposed to belong to God, which is why the Sanhedrin created you cannot just decide that you're going to have a blood avenger. You have to have a proper court and go through the proper court, and then even then now without the Sanhedrin, we can't put anyone to unalive.
I'm a big proponent of the death penalty.
Yeah, I used to be a big proponent of the death penalty.
There were definite cases.
Not that I believe every murder, actually. I believed that there were definite cases that we should put that person to death, like a serial killer, like Ted Bundy or whatever.
I was a conservative Christian.
He didn't never
I've never been, but my reasoning
I was a conservative Christian.
Torture.
Oh, wow.
I believe, okay, so you put them to unalignment, that's done. What did they didn't learn anything. You make them sit in a cell for the rest of their lives. That is having to dwell on what they did, because they have no other choice but to sit in a cell for the rest of their lives. That is a whole different, that is punishment.
And also
but you just put them to unalignment and then you're done and over. They learn nothing.
When you start to...
And also what I found after...
realize
starting to, when you start to deconstruct, you start to realize that if I have a view about something and I've really never researched the opposing view, then maybe I should shut up and listen to the opposing view for a while and see if I'm right about what I think. And so I started listening to what people who were against the death penalty were talking about. And one of the things is that the cost is greater. It is just so much greater on the states and our government and on our tax dollars to actually put someone to death. It costs us more than keeping them alive. And it does nothing for us as a society. They're not out, but they can't kill anybody else again. It's not protecting us by killing them.
And when I found out how many...
And so I started realizing that... Maybe I'm wrong. And when I found out how many innocent men who are mostly of color are put to death due to the death penalty, I could not agree with it anymore.
It's also, we looked at it, the disproportionate. Yeah, it's a disproportionate amount of men of color, specifically black men, who are put onto unalignment row. I'm trying to get around all of the...
All right, let's finish.
It's hard. It's just the truth. All right, let's finish up this stupid book. And then I have a wonderful Auntie Sermons for y'all this morning. The heads of the ancestral houses of the clans of the descendant of Gilead, son of Machir, son of Manasseh of the Josephite clan, Machir, I don't know how to do it, of the Josephite clan,
which one?
Okay,
the heads of the mothers of the children of Gilead, son of Machir, son of Manasseh, the children of Gilead.
The heads of the ancestral
came forward and spoke in the presence of Moses and the leaders, the heads of the ancestral houses of the Israelites. They said, the Lord commanded my Lord to give the land for inheritance by lot to the Israelites. And my Lord was commanded by the Lord to give the inheritance to our Lord Zelophehad and to his daughters. But if they are married into another Israelite tribe, then their inheritance will be taken from the inheritance of our ancestors and added to the inheritance of the tribe into which they married. So it will be taken away from the allotted portion of our inheritance, and when the Jubilee of the Israelites comes, then their inheritance will be added to the inheritance of the tribe into which they have married, and their inheritance will be taken from the inheritance of our ancestral tribe. So, what I'm getting from this is they're doing some math here. They're going, wait a minute. If we do this, when they get married, we're going to lose out. Is that what they're saying here?
Let me look it over one more time. Give me a second.
Thank you guys for being here. Keep tapping the screen, sharing out the live. I've got a wonderful Auntie sermon for you this morning.
Thank you guys for being here. Keep tapping the screen, sharing out the live. I've got a wonderful Auntie sermon for you this morning.
All the women you know. And
you want your friends to be here for that. Send it out to all the women you know.
It's basically like you're just passing around money to, because all of the tribes of Israel are supposed to also share. Like, I don't want to say profit sharing, but that's kind of sort of it. So the traveling around from tribe to tribe just means it's not going anywhere, and it's weird for it to travel around when it should be staying
so then
to be shared by everyone.
Okay.
So inheritance is not like the rounds from a tribe to another tribe, but the tribes of the children of Israel shall cleave every man to his own inheritance, meaning that you already have an inheritance, you don't need to be taking an inheritance from another tribe.
But what does it have to do with the marriage, for the marriage of the female heir?
Because when a woman is getting married, she has a certain amount of money that goes with her to the man that she's married.
Okay.
And they're saying that man has his own inheritance already because he's part of the tribe. He doesn't get to inherit the money from another member of the tribe.
Then Moses.
All right, so it was like, hey, wait a minute, we don't want that passing around. Okay. Then Moses commanded the Israelites according to the word of the Lord, saying, the descendants of the tribe of Joseph are right in what they're saying. This is what the Lord commands concerning the daughters of Zelophehad. Let them marry whom they think best, only it must be into a clan of their father's tribe that they are married, so that no inheritance of the Israelites shall be transferred from one tribe to another, for all Israelites shall retain the inheritance of their ancestral tribe. Every daughter who possesses an inheritance in any tribe of the Israelites shall marry one from the clan of her father's tribe, so that all Israelites may continue to possess their ancestral inheritance. No inheritance shall be transferred from one tribe to another, for each of the tribes of the Israelites shall retain its own inheritance.
Don't.
So I'm just going to tell you right now,
Fucking
that bothers me. Like, don't. You have to marry somebody within your clan because fucking property is more important than who you love.
Yes.
Like, we get property.
Love was nothing to do with it. That's the part of it. There was no
sad thing.
Yeah, love was nothing. It was just so what? You married for property inheritance. You married to alliance. Things like that.
The daughter of Zelophehad.
Hey, Monica, how are you? Barbie Toaster, good to see you. The daughter of Zelophehad did as the Lord had commanded Moses. Mahlah, Tirzah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Noah. The daughters of Zelophehad married sons of their father's brothers. They were married into the clans of the descendants of Manasseh, son of Joseph, and their inheritance remained in the tribe of their father's clan. These are the commandments and the ordinances that the Lord commanded through Moses to the Israelites in the plains of Moab by the Jordan at Jericho. You guys, finish numbers.
Yes,
we're done with numbers.
It just means be strong, and may you be strengthened.
Cool.
That's what we say when we finish reading something.
All right, I do have.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. All right, I do have a good Auntie sermon today, y'all.
I'm ready. Let's do this.
All right, my Auntie sermon. Let me pull up my dogs. Today we are talking about. No, let's go.
Okay. All right, everybody ready? Get yourself a drink.
Okay.
Get yourself comfortable.
All right, everybody ready? Get yourself a drink. Get yourself comfortable. As you know, my sermons get a little bit longer now than they used to be. I do have more episodes out now of Auntie Sermons. If you missed them, go check them out. I'm going to start popping some bonus episodes up to get us a little more caught up because I have more sermons written than I do have. Like once a week is not enough. I need to put out some extra ones now and then to catch us up. But right now, we're going to be turning to Genesis 46:17.
It is in public domain.
I read from the web translation of the Bible simply because it is in public domain. And so
the sons of Asher,
you follow along whatever Bible makes it easier for you. The sons of Asher, Imnah, Ishva, Ishvi, Beriah,
Heber,
and Serah, their sister. The sons of Beriah, Heber, and Malchiel. We are deep inside the genealogy. Names, lineages, sons. The chapter is listing the descendants of Jacob as the family moves into Egypt during the Joseph story.
Man after man.
And the structure of the passage is extremely predictable.
It's genealogy.
Man after man, son after son, line after line. It's genealogy. So I know that most of you skipped it when you were Christians. It's the part where your eyes started glazing over, the part where you think, okay, we get it. A bunch of people had a bunch of sons. It's a section that feels like it was designed to help you fall asleep during a nightly devotional. But genealogies are actually where some of the most interesting clues in the text live. Because once you slow down and start paying attention to the patterns, you begin to notice when the pattern breaks.
They track the line of inheritance.
This is how genealogies in Genesis normally work.
They track the line.
They track the line of inheritance. They track the line of authority.
And Serah.
They track the line of the men. And then suddenly the pattern breaks.
No story,
and
no
Serah,
for why she is
their sister.
The text pauses.
One woman, no explanation. No story, no reason given for why she is there. The text pauses long enough to acknowledge her existence and then immediately moves back to the men again.
Ancient Hebrew.
This is something we have to start paying attention to as we read these ancient texts because ancient Hebrew storytelling is built on patterns.
They were repeated.
These passages were not just written to be read silently. They were chanted, they were recited, they were repeated aloud across generations.
Structure mattered.
Which means patterns matter.
When a pattern breaks, the
Repetition mattered.
accidental.
Structure mattered.
Unexpected in a text.
And when a pattern breaks, the break is rarely accidental. When you see something unexpected in a text like this, it's a signal, a little red flag in the narrative that tells us, pay attention here.
Full of sons.
Something interesting is happening.
One daughter is
Because in a genealogy full of sons, suddenly naming one daughter is unusual. And the question that immediately follows is the same question readers have been asking for centuries.
The woman named in
Why
the
her?
genealogy is
Her name and what it means.
scholars generally
The woman named in this genealogy is Serah.
overflow.
Scholars generally connect her name to meanings like abundance, overflow, surplus, or extension.
Enough.
The idea behind the name is something that stretches beyond what is expected, more than enough,
Later in Jewish
and an overflow.
because the Bible
And that's interesting when you think about the way her story develops later in Jewish tradition, because the Bible gives her almost
later
nothing,
traditions give her life
just a name and a genealogy.
generations. A life that extends
But later traditions give her a life that stretches across generations, a life that extends far beyond the moment she appears in the text. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's stay with the Bible for a moment, because Serah is only mentioned a few times in Scripture, and every time she appears, it's inside the genealogy. There is no speech, no personal story, no explanation for why she is named, and when almost no other daughters are, she simply appears as Serah, their sister. Which, again, raises the same question, why her? Because genealogies in the ancient world usually existed for one reason, to track the line of the men, to track inheritance, to track authority. So when a daughter appears in the list, it stands out. And when something stands out in the text like this, it's usually worth slowing down and asking why.
As I stated, Serah appears briefly inside
There's almost synopsis of her story. There's almost no story. As I stated, Serah appears briefly inside the genealogy of Jacob's family traveling to Egypt. She is identified only as a sister among the sons of Asher. That's it. She doesn't give a speech. There's no narrative role. There's no explanation in the text for why she is included when almost no other daughters are. She simply exists inside the text. And sometimes that is the most uncomfortable thing a woman can do in a patriarchal story. Not cause a scandal, not bear a famous son, not trigger a crisis that moves the plot forward. Just exist. Which leaves readers with the question that the text never answers. Why is she here? Here's all the Bible verses where she appears. Genesis 46:17, the sons of Asher, Imnah, Ishva, Ishvi, Beriah, and Serah, their sister. The sons of Beriah, Heber, and Malchiel. Numbers 26:46, the name of the daughter of Asher was Serah. First Chronicles 7:30, the sons of Asher, Imnah, Ishva, Ishvi, Beriah, and Serah, their sister. 3 mentions, all genealogies, no story.
But later Jewish
Rabbinical teaching. The Bible gives Serah almost nothing, just a name. But later Jewish tradition refuses to leave that silence alone. Rabbinic literature expands her life dramatically, turning her into one of the most fascinating minor figures in Jewish storytelling. One of the earliest expanded traditions appears in Jewish midrash called Genesis Rabbah. In Genesis Rabbah 94, the rabbis tell a story about the moment when Joseph's brothers returned from Egypt and revealed that Joseph was still alive. The father, Jacob, had believed for years that Joseph was dead.
So badly that it could harm him.
The brothers were afraid that suddenly hearing the news might shock him so badly that it could harm him. So according to this midrash, they asked Serah to deliver the news carefully. Serah approached Jacob while he was praying and began singing softly while playing a harp.
And he rules.
Joseph is still alive.
By introducing
Joseph is still alive, and he rules in Egypt. By introducing the story slowly through song, she allowed Jacob to absorb the news without collapsing under the shock. Because she preserved life with her words, he blessed her with extraordinary longevity. From that point forward, rabbinic storytelling begins to treat Serah as someone who lives far longer than the normal human life. That long life becomes important in another story preserved in the Babylonian Talmud.
The rabbis describe
in the Tractate Sota, chapter 13a, the rabbis describe a moment during the Exodus. Moses remembered that Joseph had made the Israelites promise that when God eventually delivered them from Egypt, they would carry his bones with them.
According to the Talmud,
but after hundreds of years in Egypt, no one knew where Joseph had been buried. According to the Talmud, Moses went to Serah because she was the only person still alive who remembered the earlier generation. Serah told Moses that the Egyptians had hidden Joseph's coffin in the Nile River. They believed that as long as Joseph's bones remained in the water, the Nile would remain blessed. Moses went to the river and called out to Joseph. He asked Joseph to rise so the promise made to him could finally be fulfilled. According to the story, the coffin rose from the river and Joseph's bones were carried out of Egypt with the Israelites. In that moment, Serah becomes something very important in Jewish storytelling. She becomes the keeper of memory, the one person who remembers the past clearly enough to guide the future. Some later rabbinic texts go even further. In Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, a medieval collection of rabbinic traditions, Serah is listed among a small group of righteous people who entered paradise alive without experiencing death. In those traditions, Serah becomes something even more symbolic, not just a woman mentioned in genealogy. but a witness,
Christian teaching,
someone who carries the memory of Israel's story across generations.
Commentary, something interesting happened.
Christian teaching.
Joy suddenly becomes
When we move from rabbinic tradition into Christian commentary, something interesting happens. The story suddenly becomes very quiet again.
Christian scholars barely
Where Jewish interpreters built entire legends around Serah, most Christian scholars barely pause at her name. She appears, she is acknowledged, and the commentary moves on. For example, in his well-known Bible commentary, the 18th century Methodist preacher John Wesley simply notes that Serah is their sister, meaning the daughter of Asher, and offers no further discussion. Matthew Henry's famous commentary on the whole Bible does the same thing. Henry focuses on the genealogy itself and the migration of Jacob's family into Egypt, but Serah receives no expanded reflection at all. She is named, and then the discussion returns immediately to the men. Modern evangelical study Bibles tend to treat her the same way.
Simply acknowledges that
The ESV Study Bible, one of the most widely used evangelical study Bibles today, simply acknowledges that she was the daughter of Asher, listed among the descendants of Jacob, who went down to Egypt. No story, no explanation, just a note that her presence in the genealogy is unusual because daughters were rarely named in these lists. The Bible Commentary, a major evangelical reference work, first edited by F.F. Bruce, takes a similar approach. It observes the genealogies in the Old Testament typically track male. It observes the genealogies in the Old Testament typically track male lineage, which makes the naming of a daughter noteworthy, but it offers no expanded narrative about her life. So in Christian interpretation, Serah largely remains what the biblical text itself leaves us with: a name, a sister among brothers, a brief pause in the long list of men, and then the genealogy moves on.
The Bible itself barely pauses.
Why this matters?
One line.
As we have already seen, the Bible itself barely pauses for Serah. One line, and Serah, their sister. But later generations could not leave that silence alone. Jewish tradition expanded her life with songs, centuries of memory and stories that connected Jacob to Moses. Christian commentary, on the other hand, mostly left her exactly where the Bible left her, a name in a list, and the contrast tells us something important. When a text gives us almost nothing about a woman, interpreters often feel pressure to explain why she is there. Sometimes they invent stories, sometimes they simply move on, but either way the silence itself becomes the question. Why is she named? Why does the pattern break here? And when we start noticing those moments in the text, we begin to see the structure of the story more clearly. Who gets the narrative? Who gets the lineage? And who appears only briefly before the text returns to the men?
Now we need to pause and look at
recognizing the pattern in Genesis. Now we need to pause and look at the pattern, because Serah is not an isolated case. She is part of a pattern that runs all the way through Genesis. And once you start seeing the pattern, it becomes impossible to ignore. In Genesis, women do not simply appear in the story as people whose lives matter on their own terms. They appear because their presence supports the narrative of the men. Their bodies carry the lineage. Their actions move a man's story forward. Their suffering explains the actions of men. Their existence supports a covenant that is constantly described in male terms. Again and again, the structure of the story tells us the same thing. The men are the center of the narrative. The women orbit around them. And even when women are necessary to the story, they are rarely given space to exist as full characters. Often they are not even named. Their bodies matter, their presence matters, but their names do not, their voices do not, their inner lives do not. Take Serah. Take Serah. Her story is not really about Serah. Her story is about the promise of Isaac. her body becomes the place where the covenant promise is fulfilled for Abraham. Rebecca appears next. Her role becomes clear very quickly. She is the woman who will give birth to Jacob. Her pregnancy becomes a vehicle through which the next generation of the covenant is explained. Rachel and Leah spend much of their story competing with one another over fertility. Why? Because the story needs to explain how the sons of Jacob come into existence. Their bodies become the mechanism that produces the 12 tribes. Hagar appears as a servant woman whose body is used to produce a son for Abraham when Serah cannot conceive. Her suffering matters only insofar as it affects Abraham's household and the future of his lineage. Dinah finally appears in a story that seems like it might center a woman, but even there the story ultimately explains the violent actions of her brothers and the political position of Jacob's sons. Her voice is never recorded. Potiphar's wife enters the narrative of Joseph. Her role? To test Joseph's righteousness and move the story toward prison and eventually toward power in Egypt. Asenath appears only long enough to explain where Joseph's sons came from. She is the mother of Ephraim and Manasseh, the next branches of the tribal lineage. And then we arrive at Serah. No explanation, no narrative, just a name. And even that is unusual because very often in Genesis, women are not named at all. They are daughters, servants, concubines, wives. Their function in the story is clear, but their identity is not considered important enough to record. Their role is to support the story of men and then disappear from the page. But when a woman does not disappear, when her name remains in the text, when her presence lingers long enough to make readers ask questions, something else begins to happen. Later, interpreters step in, and they begin to reshape her story. They expand it, they rewrite it. They assign her a purpose that once again supports the larger narrative that centers men. So the pattern becomes clear. Women support the story. Women advance the lineage. Women make the narrative possible, but they are rarely centered. They are often unnamed, often erased. And when they cannot be erased, their stories are retold so the narrative can return to where it always seems to want to go. Back to the men. The sons, the fathers, the inheritance. The promise passed from man to man to man. And Serah's story will become one of the clearest examples of exactly that.
Because the pattern
doesn't stay in the text. And this matters for a reason. Because the patterns we normalize in our sacred stories shape the way we see the world. When generation after generation grows up reading texts where men are the center of the narrative and women exist mainly to support in support roles, that structure begins to feel normal. It becomes invisible. Women become accustomed to being the background characters, the supporters, the ones whose lives revolve around someone else's story. And we see that pattern play out in the real world all the time. How many women have been raised to believe their purpose is to support a man's life, to build his home, raise his children, manage his household, support his career, sacrifice their own ambition so that his story can move forward. And many women do exactly what they were told to do. They give their time, their labor, their bodies, their entire lives, only to discover later that the narrative they built everything around was never really about them.
Many women find themselves stuck.
And when that structure collapses through divorce, abandonment, or betrayal, many women find themselves starting over with far fewer resources and opportunities than the men whose lives they have helped build.
One of the most infamous examples.
We have seen stories like this play out in real life.
Betty met Dan Broderick.
One of the most infamous examples is Betty Broderick.
While he built his career.
Betty met Dan Broderick when they were both young. She supported him while he built his career, while he was going through medical school, while he was going through law school. She worked, she raised their children, she managed the household. She did all the things women had been told for generations were the right things to do. Support your husband, build the home, raise the children.
Dan Broderick
sacrifice so his future can succeed.
Powerful.
Dan Broderick did succeed.
Once he had
he became wealthy,
that life,
powerful, successful.
He left her.
And once he had everything he needed from that life, she helped build.
And suddenly the entire
He left
structure
her.
Betty had built her life.
He left her for a younger woman.
The story she
And suddenly the entire structure Betty had built her life around collapsed.
was rewritten.
The story she believed she was part of, the story where she was a partner, a wife, a builder of that life, was rewritten.
Angry ex-wife.
She was no longer the woman who had supported the rise of that household. She became the angry ex-wife, the unstable woman, the problem.
Went to the home
Eventually, that situation spiraled into tragedy.
and shot them both.
Betty Broderick went to the home where Dan Broderick and his new wife were sleeping
But the
and
faithful
shot them
conversation
both
that followed
dead.
often ignored the years of labor,
It was a
suffering,
horrific crime.
and identity.
But the cultural conversation that followed often ignored the years of labor, sacrifice, and identity that had been poured into a life structure entirely around supporting a man's
Her life
narrative.
was erased from the version of the
Her story had been rewritten, and the woman who helped build the life was erased from the version of the story that survived, and sometimes
How quickly
the erasure is quieter.
who
Sometimes it happens in small conversations that reveal how quickly we forget the women who actually built something. Recently, I saw a conversation online after Bad Bunny appeared on Saturday Night Live. Someone began talking about Latino contributions to American television and entertainment.
The point of
And one commenter started praising Desi Arnaz.
there would be
The point of his comment was very clear.
Desi Arnaz. He
was arguing that there would be no Star Trek without Desi Arnaz. He talked about Desi securing the syndication rights for I Love Lucy. He talked about how the money from that decision created Desi Lu Studios. And then he talked about how Desi Lu went on to produce shows like Star Trek.
That comment.
The implication was obvious. No Desi Arnaz, no Desi Lu, no Star Trek.
Desi Arnaz.
That comment started getting thousands of likes. People agreeing, people praising Desi Arnaz, and the entire time something was missing from the story.
I Love Lucy. She was
Lucille
the
Ball.
owner of
Because Lucille Ball was not just an actress on I Love Lucy. She was the co-owner of Desi Lu. She was the head of that studio. And when Star Trek was brought to Desi Lu after the first pilot bill, it was Lucille Ball who pushed for the show to get a second chance.
It was
It was Lucille Ball who cast the deciding vote to finance a second pilot. It was Lucille Ball who used her authority inside Desi Lu to keep the project alive when other executives were skeptical. So I responded. I wrote,
away the achievements of Lucille
"Excuse
Ball
me,
and give
but
them
Lucy did that, not Desi.
to
Don't take away the achievements of Lucille Ball and give them to her husband. That happened to women way too much. Lucille Ball played a pivotal role in the creation of Star Trek, using her power as a producer to advocate for the shit show and finance a second pilot after the first failed. Ball was the deciding vote at her studio, Desi Lu, and believed in the project despite skepticism from other executives and her own board. She even used her own money to ensure that the show got another chance. Ball's support is considered a major reason Star Trek has endured into the 21st century. The original comment had thousands of likes. Mine
correction.
had a fraction.
Exactly how
His comment was inaccurate. Mine was the correction. But that is exactly how these patterns work. The man gets remembered. The woman who actually made the decision disappears from the story. Lucille Ball helped build Desi Lu. Lucille Ball greenlit Star Trek. Lucille Ball risked her own money and reputation to give that show another chance. And yet, in casual conversation, people still retell that story as if the achievement belonged to the man. Because the pattern has been normalized for centuries. Women build, women support, women carry the story forward, and their names quietly disappear from the narrative. Which is why recognizing the pattern in these texts matters, because once you learn to see it in Scripture, you start seeing it everywhere.
This is where the conversation becomes
Recognizing the pattern for ourselves.
It's one thing to recognize,
and this is where the conversation becomes uncomfortable.
It's another thing
because it's one thing to recognize these patterns in the ancient text.
When we are
it's another thing entirely to recognize them in our own lives.
examining theology.
When we are deconstructing from religion, we often spend a lot of time examining theology.
I'm starting to talk like
We question doctrines. We question the authority of Scripture. I'm starting to talk like Joel. We question the institutions that taught us these things. But one thing that often goes unexamined is the internalized misogyny that many of us carry with us because we were raised inside of a deeply patriarchal system. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Even if you are one of the most feminist badass bitches on the planet, you may still find yourself centering men. Because the system we live in was designed to teach us to do exactly that. Now, let me be clear about something. Sometimes people have to navigate systems strategically. I am not stupid.
There have been times.
Sometimes in order to survive inside a system, you have to learn how to play the system. There have been times when I have been arguing with a man and realized that he literally cannot hear me. Not because my argument is weak, not because my reasoning is flawed, but because I am too much woman for him to handle. And in those moments, I have done something very deliberate. I have turned to one of the men in my life and said, would you repeat what I just said? Because suddenly, when the exact same message comes out of a man's voice with a little bass in it, the man who could not hear me before suddenly understands the point.
Strategy. That is recognizing.
That is not what I'm talking about here. That is strategy.
What I am talking about
that is recognizing the system and maneuvering inside of it. What I am talking about is something different. I am talking about the moments when we center men unconsciously.
When we fail to support others.
When we shrink ourselves.
When we give our attention
when we silence ourselves. When we fail to support other women. When we give our attention, our money, and our loyalty to male voices while women doing the same work struggle to be heard. Think about the shows we watch. How many reality shows revolve around the same narrative? Marriage. A woman's ultimate goal is to find a husband. Shows like Love is Blind or Married at First Sight, and a dozen other variations of the same storyline. The entire premise is built on the idea that a woman's life becomes complete when she finds a man. Every time we support those narratives, we reinforce the same cultural script.
How often do we
look at the creators we support online? How often do we subscribe to male creators?
And yet women doing the exact
How often do we send them gifts, donations, and super chats? And yet women doing the exact same work, sometimes better work, are fighting for a fraction of that support.
Women like Rabbi Hannah.
Women like Thinker. Women like Born Again Atheists. Women like Rabbi Hannah. Voices doing the same labor, spreading the same messages, often with less recognition and less financial backing. And if we are honest, sometimes the reason is simple. We have been conditioned to treat male voices as more authoritative, more trustworthy, more worthy of attention. And the pattern even shows up in something as everyday as fashion. The industry that tells women how they are supposed to look is largely controlled by men. Women make up the overwhelming majority of the customer base, but men hold most of the C-suite positions. Men hold many of the creative director roles. Men often control the companies that define what women's bodies should look like, what women should wear, and what beauty is supposed to mean. Only about 25% of board-level positions in fashion are held by women.
So the standard women
and even in women's wear brands, fewer than half are actually designed by women. So the standard women are told to chase the clothes, the beauty ideals, the messaging are often being shaped through a male gaze.
And sometimes
women are the consumers, but men are still frequently the ones defining the rules.
A man talks
and sometimes the centering happens in quieter ways.
And instead of pushing back,
a man talks over us. A man speaks louder than us, and instead of pushing back, we lower our voice. We let the conversation shift toward him. We let him occupy the center of the room. And the uncomfortable truth is that even the most committed feminists can still find themselves slipping into these patterns. I know I do. There are moments when I catch myself shrinking. Moments when I realize I'm trying to make myself smaller, quieter, more agreeable, so that a man will take me seriously.
Out there in the real world they live.
And when that happens, I have to stop and recognize what is happening, because these patterns are not just out there in the real world, they live inside of us. They are the residue of centuries of systems that taught women to orbit around men, which means that deconstruction cannot stop with theology. It cannot stop with questioning scripture. It has to extend into our everyday lives. Women have to start supporting other women more intentionally, financially, socially, professionally. We have to listen to women's voices, promote women's work, support women-owned businesses. We have to become financially smarter.
Sometimes that means intentionally over
politically aware.
The system has been off
advocates for each other. And sometimes that means intentionally overcorrecting, because the system has been off balance for centuries. And balance does not magically appear on its own. It takes conscious effort. It takes awareness. It takes courage. It takes women recognizing the moments when we are unconsciously centering men and deliberately choosing to center ourselves instead.
After all this, after the patterns, after the
So back to Serah.
stories about how women
And now we go back to Serah, because after all this, after the patterns, after the analysis, after the stories about how women disappear from the narrative, we have to come back to the woman who started the conversation.
all we get, and all
Serah.
with you when
And
I
Serah,
their
their sister.
real grief.
That's all we get, and I'll be honest with you, when I read these stories,
Imagine who
I sometimes feel real grief. I sit quietly in my room, and I try to imagine who she was.
What
What was her life like?
Her laugh. What was her favorite food? Did she play music?
What kind of jokes made her
The
laugh?
harp that later
What was her favorite food? Did she play music? Did she play an instrument other than the harp that later traditions decided to assign to her?
Was she funny? Was she
What kind of personality did she have? Was she loud?
argue with her brother?
Was she funny?
Did she have
Was she thoughtful? Was she stubborn?
Did she have fears?
Did she argue with her brothers?
Did she
Did she
ever
have
imagine
dreams?
that thousands
she have
of years
fears?
later, someone would be sitting
Did
in
she
the
ever imagine that thousands of years later, someone would be sitting in a room trying to imagine who she was?
more than enough?
Her name means more than enough.
Given her own story.
More than enough.
Enough to be given her
And
own
yet she was still not enough to be given her own story.
line in a genealogy.
Not enough to be given her own voice. Not enough to be remembered as anything more than a passing line in a genealogy. And I mourned that. I mourned it because I was told that this was the book of the God of the universe. I was told that this God loved me just as much as he loved any other person on this earth. But when I go to look for myself in the text, when I go searching for representation because representation matters, I struggle to find it. What I find instead are women who disappear, women who are silenced, women who are erased, women whose stories are retold from someone else's perspective. And it's hard to connect a story when you cannot find yourself inside of it. So I mourn.
I mourn all of those.
I mourn Serah, I mourn Dina, I mourn Naama, I mourn Asana. I mourn all of those women whose stories were never told. I mourn all those little girls who grew up reading these stories and were told that this book represented them too.
The saviors are
Because when you look closely at the narrative, the heroes are always men. The saviors are always men. The voices that matter are always men. And yet we know in real life that women are pivotal. We know women save the day. We know women build families, build communities, build movements, build entire worlds. But this book tells a different story, and Serah stands inside that text like a warning sign.
Why is she here?
A red flag. She is the moment where the reader should stop and ask the question, why is she here? Why is she named? Why do we know almost nothing about her? She stands there quietly in the genealogy, but if we are paying attention, she is telling us something. She's telling us to notice the pattern. She's telling us to recognize what happens to women in these stories. She's telling us,
do not
not let them erase you the way they erased me.
Do not let them silence you.
Do not let them retell your story the way they retold mine. Do not let them silence you. She is telling us to see her, and maybe even more importantly, she is telling us to see ourselves, to recognize the pattern in the text, to recognize these same patterns in our lives, and then to refuse to participate in them. Because once the pattern becomes visible, the silence around these women stops feeling accidental.
I know that
and once you recognize that silence, you have a choice about whether you allow it to continue. I know that sometimes when you hear me live and there's a man on the panel and Dark Crystal shows up,
because I will talk.
It can sound like I'm completely lost in control.
Sometimes I will even
because I will talk right over that man. I will keep talking even while he is talking. Sometimes I will even start saying complete nonsense, just to keep the sound in the room filled so that he cannot take over the conversation. And I know that can be aggravating to listen to, especially for people like me who have ADHD, because hearing multiple people talk over each other can be incredibly overstimulating. I know that.
And in that moment,
but here's the honest truth. Sometimes when Dark Crystal comes out, I can't control her. And in that moment, she's not just speaking for me, she's speaking for every woman like Serah, whose voice was never recorded. She's speaking for the women who were talked over, the women who were written out, the women whose stories were retold by someone else. She's refusing to be quiet. She's refusing to be erased. She refuses to let someone rewrite the story by simply talking louder and taking the center of the room.
And maybe you don't,
because sometimes the only way to stop erasure is to refuse silence. And maybe you don't need an alter ego like Dark Crystal.
What are you going to do
differently? But you do need to ask yourself a question.
What is one?
What are you going to do differently starting today?
What is one thing you can do?
What is one thing you can do to stop centering men?
That this patriarchal system,
what is one thing you can do to deconstruct the internal misogyny that this patriarchal system has embedded in you?
Will you apologize?
The next time a man interrupts you, what will you do?
I was not finished speaking.
Will you apologize and let him speak?
The next time you open YouTube,
or will you say, I was not finished speaking, do not interrupt me?
Are you giving your attention,
the next time you open YouTube, who are you supporting?
Money to men?
Are you giving your attention, your membership, your support, your super chats, and your money to men?
Maybe you go.
Are you supporting women doing the same
work?
Maybe
you go listen to girls.
Maybe you go look up Thinker. Maybe you go look up Born Again Atheists. Maybe you go listen to Girls Gone Godless. Maybe you check out the podcast What the Fuck Bible Stories. Maybe you subscribe to Auntie Sermons.
It's as simple as
because supporting women's voices is not complicated.
Maybe you look at your bank statement.
Sometimes it's as simple as choosing to listen
to male creators.
Maybe you look at your bank statement and you ask yourself how much money you are giving to male creators every month.
Companies owned by women.
Maybe you go look at all the products in your bathroom and you ask yourself if any of them come from companies owned by women.
I don't care what.
Maybe you decide to start supporting women-owned businesses more intentionally.
Because the system,
I don't care what the choice is. What I care about is that it is deliberate.
So if we want to change,
because the system we inherited was built to center men automatically. So if we want to change it, we have to start making conscious choices.
Choices that center women.
Intentional choices.
Choices that
deliberate choices. Choices that center women.
The text, like
choices that center ourselves.
Like a warning sign.
Serah is standing there in the text like a red flag, like a warning sign. And she is asking every single one of us the same question now that you see the pattern. What are you going to do about it? And that's today's Auntie Sermon.
Well, thank you.
Well, that was amazing.
I feel like I should have an applause thing. You know, to finish it out.
You know,
it's not letting me. It's not letting me change my background for some reason. I'm going to try.
It's not letting me. It's not letting me change my background for some reason. I'm going to try one more time.
It won't let me change it. But we can still have conversations if people want to come up.
Well, let me change it.
If anybody
We can still have conversations if people want to come up.
any questions, commentaries, if anybody wants to come up and talk about the sermon or the Bible study.
Any questions or commentaries? If anybody wants to come up and talk about the sermon or the Bible study or ask questions or anything, the guest box is open. You're free to come up.
I think that a lot of people only know people like Deborah the judge, and that's why I'm going through and talking about all the women.
I think that a lot of people only know people like Deborah the judge, and that's why I'm going through and talking about all the women in the Bible, because
people say things like, I like
since so few were named,
Deborah the judge.
I find it very cliche when people say things like, I like Deborah the judge, that's because you only know Deborah the judge. There's so many women you don't know about because they didn't tell their stories, and I think that's the purpose of the Auntie Sermons, you know?
You know what I like about Tina? Her original story doesn't have her being raped. It has her choosing Shechem, and the priestly layer adds her being raped as a way to justify why her two brothers went and slaughtered everyone.
Oh, wow.
And then
when we went over her story...
Yeah, in her original story, she chooses Shechem. And it only shows that he spoke to her heart and she responded. And then he went to her father and is like, I love your daughter and I wish to, whatever you want from me, I will do so that I can marry her. And she's like, yes, I want this too. And then her brothers go through and still slaughter everyone because they didn't like the idea that she chose for herself. So
where is the original story?
Raped. So it is in you see it in the Dead Sea Scrolls, but it's added in the priestly layer that shows
I'm sorry, I fell.
the addition of her being.
Oh, I'm sorry, I fell.
Are you okay?
Yes, sorry, hang on 1 second. My bookshelf fell over.
No.
I'll pick you up just a second. Oh my goodness. No. Let's hold it that way.
Okay.
So sorry.
Okay,
we're okay. Okay,
my desk, and
I have a lot of books, and they needed a new bookshelf, really is what it is. And instead they're on my desk, and they all decided to tip over because I pulled out my little copy of the Dead Sea Scrolls. So it was a destruction book, and I didn't know that.
If you go to, there's a website that I love called Siddur.org. Now, it only does the Torah. It doesn't do Christian because it is a Jewish website.
Okay, how do I spell Siddur?
Not the original story, no. He did not.
Okay, how do I spell Siddur?
Siddur. OpenSiddur.com. Or is it .org? Hold on, I think it's .org. Let me pull it up.
Okay.
It's .org, yeah. So it has all of the narratives color-coded by their layers in which they were written, and it will tell you what the layers are, and even give you footnotes as to information as to when they were added, the whole of it.
For some reason, my iPad doesn't want to bring that up, but I have it bookmarked, so that's cool. That's really interesting.
Well, for some reason, my iPad doesn't want to bring that up, but I have it bookmarked, so that's cool. That's really interesting.
I'll send you the Parsha, because they have it by Parsha because it's a Jewish website. So I'll send you the Parsha, and you can see for yourself. You just go to the section of Sinah, and it will show you by color coding when the layers were added.
Story already.
That's cool. I also read when we did Dina's story already, and I was learning about how there is some midrash where they tell a story where she is Job's wife.
They are also saying she's the woman.
And so after her going through everything she went through, they are also saying she's the woman who loses 10 children in one day. And that's just crazy.
I've noticed that.
Maybe she's suffering enough.
Get out there, I'll tell you.
I noticed that because I'm starting to study a lot of the midrash, and it's like, what? Could you believe these midrash?
Now, some midrashes I love. There are some midrash that I absolutely adore, like the oven of Bach-9, where we tell God to go piss off. I do like that one, and I do know some modern midrashes like Rabbi Jill Hammer that I absolutely adore. I think that she is a wonderful midrashist, but there's a lot of midrash that I read and go, what were you thinking? How on God's green earth did you come up with that?
I don't know why it won't let me change my background. That's going to bug me. Well, I
don't know why it won't let me change my background.
I clicked
That's
on
going to let you change it.
This one. You guys, the guest box.
I click on the new background and then it just stays
If the
this
rabbi
one.
has time, a lot of times she doesn't.
You guys, the guest box is open. If you want to come up, if you know, if the rabbi has time, a lot of times she doesn't mind answering questions. So, do you mind answering questions?
I don't mind. I literally am playing Sims while I'm talking to you.
I haven't played Sims in so long. So if you want to come up and ask Rabbi a question, or if you have questions about the Bible study today, or if you want to talk to me about the sermon, please feel free to come up. Sims, which version of Sims is what they want to know?
4.
4. Okay, there you go.
And I have all of the add-ons. My family collectively plays Sims, so we have all of the add-ons. We have everything. It is a part of Sims. We've been playing Sims. I was a beta tester for the first Sims.
Oh, wow, that's cool. Hey, brother, can I get your age for TikTok?
Over 40.
Okay. What were you going to say, Rabbi?
Oh, I mentioned I don't think people know what you meant by priestly layer. So there's a thing called the documentary hypothesis. The documentary hypothesis proposes that the Bible books, the books of the text, were built in layers. They were not written all at once, and the core layer happens at the earliest, and then these other layers are added to expand the narrative, to clarify things, to help clean up genealogies, and each layers have a specific time period in which they were added. The priestly layer is one of those, and the priestly layer kind of goes through to demythalize, to kind of take away this idea of mysticism and mythology from the layers, to try and kind of clean it and make it more not sane, but sacred. So the priestly layer is the one that is these authors redacted, went into, and added the narrative that Dinah was attacked as justification for why her brothers then wiped out Shechem and his family.
So, Rabbi, can I ask you, is that the council of, is that sort of nice?
Yo, guys!
I'm sorry. Listen, just really
I'm
quick.
so sorry. I could not hear you,
Hello.
brother. I apologize.
I'm sorry. Just really quick, brother. Hang on. Let me say this really quick. If you come out, mute yourself. People are talking. They're trying to have a conversation. You come up like, you know all that stuff in the mic? It's just so unnecessary. Be a grown adult. Mute yourself and allow people to finish their conversation. I'm sorry, brother. Rabbi, continue your conversation.
I do apologize. I didn't hear you at all.
Yeah, so Rabbi, we're talking about the Bible, right? I just want to kind of, it's the Christian Bible, I take it, yes?
I don't talk about the Christian Bible. I talk about the Hebrew text.
Okay, so the Hebrew text. Now, okay, so this is interesting because I'm so glad that I'm speaking to you. I've got to say, because I don't really know enough about kind of Judaism and the texts, other than was it kind of? I mean, I look at it from the point of view of where the texts kind of come from, and in the Abrahamic kind of faith system, I think Moses received the Torah, I believe, it comes at Mount Sinai, directly from kind of God. So, I mean, in terms of direct revelation, that's kind of like a gold standard, right?
Well, it would depend if you're talking about academically or if you're talking about theologically.
Yeah, I'd say theologically. Academically, you could probably rip any scripture apart because in order for it to stand up, it needs outside verification. I mean, because scripture has a wonderful habit of confirming itself, and in order to kind of determine the veracity of it and the legitimacy of it, you need other non-believers or other kind of parties that were present at the time that can confirm those events. Otherwise, you get caught into a sort of fallacious kind of circular roulette of scripture, reaffirming scripture, which then you can't deny because it requires faith.
Well, I will say this, theologically speaking, yes, the tradition, the Torah at Mount Sinai.
And so what I'm interested in is because I think when you look across the prophethood or kind of the Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, standing outside, kind of looking in, I'd say that because sort of Moses essentially received that revelation directly from God, is kind of what I would term a theological gold standard. And then when you look at in Islam, the Prophet Muhammad received his via kind of God's agent, as we like to call him, the angel Gabriel. And so again, we've got direct revelation by those two forms, and scripture that comes from that direct revelation. Christianity is slightly different because the supposition is that Jesus was that revelation in the flesh. So the way that he walked and talked, and his life was representative of his revelation. Because the Bible itself is somewhat of a manufactured document. This is my take on it. Not divine in nature, not kind of direct revelation. What are your thoughts on that? First of all,
I don't have thoughts in regards to anything that has anything to do with Christianity. Judaism and Christianity are two separate religious beliefs, and we have been separated for over 2,000 years. So I don't really think about Christianity. I don't think about Jesus or the revelation of Jesus because I'm a Jew, and it's not something that is in my worldview.
So they're not even considered prophets. So which would the last prophet be under the Judaic faith?
The last prophet. Probably the last prophet. Hold on a second. And then I can tell you, but you'll have to give me a minute. That's a good question, actually. I would not be able to tell you right off the top of my head. But I can get the answer for you.
Hey Jesse, how are you today?
But we don't really have Judeo-Christian. The idea of Judeo-Christian isn't really a thing because there are Jewish values and there are Christian values, and they are not the same.
And I often think that kind of when I look at the three faiths, they're all essentially kind of the sons of Abraham in a roundabout way. That's the linkage right there. Between Isaac, which kind of Christianity and Judaism kind of sprang forth from, and Ishmael, where Islam kind of comes from, and so there's a difference between. I think I read about it once between the covenant that God made and also the promise, and so that's kind of the separation of. But there is a linkage there. That's what I find. Quite interesting that we kind of can't deny it. or kind of from a genealogy perspective, at least from a scriptural perspective, I take your point.
So I think that whether or not it's from a scriptural perspective or not, I think that what you're doing is a disservice, because I don't think that you know very much about Judaism. So to put us and link us to Christianity is a misnomer.
The reality is
we are nothing like Christianity.
But what would you say?
The reality is that Christianity, the reality is that Christianity and Islam appropriated Judaism. So you can't really compare those.
But Judaism appropriated Judaism. Didn't you take the idea from a monotheistic God from
Judaism?
Zoroastrianism was technically the first monotheistic faith.
Yeah, you're correct that Zoroastrianism is, but we actually more developed from Canaanite polytheism into theism, and then we're forced into monotheism by King Hezekiah and Josiah.
Yeah, so this is interesting because I think this is one of the things I had. And admittedly, as I said, I've posted my colours to Master. I don't know a great deal about Judaism, but I do know that there was a pantheon of gods. It was very much kind of polytheistic at the start and morphed into monotheism. That would be correct, right?
It started out as polytheism. We started out underneath the Canaanite umbrella, and then became henotheistic, which is kind of what we are still to this day, is henotheistic. So monotheism rose because of King Josiah and Hezekiah.
Yeah. So this to me presents an amazing kind of paradox and contradiction in that how can you fundamentally believe or take as absolute truth a faith system that changes its character, its very definition of God, as a movable feast?
How did Christianity do it?
Well, Christianity is a misnomer. As I said, I kind of don't necessarily believe in the scripture because all of that is written post the death of Jesus from non-divine sources.
I think that this is where you don't understand Judaism. We don't believe in absolute truth.
Okay,
what if I told you, brother?
Okay.
Brother, what if I told you?
Okay.
What if I told you, brother? Brother, what if I told you that she doesn't even believe Moses was real? The Exodus didn't.
I don't believe Moses was real.
I love this.
The Exodus didn't happen.
Yes, this is great kind of parables and kind of mythological stories, which I think a lot of these you can kind of date back to a retelling of Sumerian tales and Mesopotamian stories, right?
Well, Mesopotamian, Akkadian, Canaanite, yeah. I mean, the Epic of Gilgamesh is where we derive the flood narrative. Most likely, it's a reframed flood narrative. We have the reframing creation stories. But this is academic, not theological.
Yeah, so this is interesting. Bearing in mind that we know this, right, and it's kind of like almost an indisputable fact, why hold so fast to something that is essentially a created fiction?
Everything is a created fiction, my love. And when you say hold to so fast against when I just told you Judaism doesn't have absolute truth, it's like that didn't hit for you.
No, it did.
I think that you really want to
Hold on. It did hit because my kind of follow-up question to that, and when I come from that frame of reference, it's I could put the Torah down on the left hand side of my table. I could put Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales on the right.
So are you an atheist?
I could equally believe both because what they are.
So are you an atheist?
No, I'm not. I'm just. I'm actually not. But the point is that.
But what are you?
No, what are you
is
you know what I'm
a
asking
human
you?
being
What are
that has
you?
the ability
No,
to
what are you
decide.
religiously? You know what I'm asking you. What are you? You said you're not an atheist, so what are you? What is your God? What do you believe?
Well, here's the thing. So the interesting thing about what
Yes,
you're
I
finding
want
there is
to
to put a
know what
label
your belief
and,
system is, and I
and
really hate
box,
when
Yes, I want to know what your belief
system
system is, and I really hate when people do this. It drives me absolutely crazy. I'm asking you a very simple question. Watch this. Watch this. Devil's public defender. Are you an atheist?
Rabbi, are you an atheist?
Yep.
Okay, Rabbi, are you an atheist?
I am not.
Okay, see,
What are you?
Do that really easy.
I'm an
agnostic
agnostic
theist with the I. So what?
Okay, see how everybody can do that really easy? I'm an atheist with the I. So what are you?
Hard. Why do people make it this big?
Atheist. Okay, see, that wasn't that hard. Why do people make it this big, huge, mysterious thing? We all know that we have something that we identify with, and it helps us have a conversation with you better if we know what your belief system is, so we can understand you better. Okay? It doesn't have to be a big thing when somebody asks you a simple question like that.
But here's the thing, the reason that we asked that question in the first place is because you're trying to frame a reference, and I'm actually against that, because I think that you should question every belief. And if you don't have the ability to deconstruct what your own belief system is and stand in that position as if
And
it was
that's
true,
why I'm
I
an
don't think that's
atheist.
intellectually honest.
And that's why I'm an atheist. Do you know what an atheist is?
An
No,
atheist is somebody who says, you know what?
An atheist is somebody who says, you know what, I don't think we can really define a God because everybody seems to have a different definition of what that is. And therefore, I don't see any reason to believe in any of them because we don't even know what one is. Okay? So I do question it all. And in asking you is so I can better understand you when we're having these conversations.
Yeah. So, I'd say that, I definitely would hold to that position. I wouldn't say I'm an atheist. Because, I come from more of an experiential kind of path, and where, not kind of scripture-led, where you have experiences, you question them, you have other experiences, you question them, you kind of variously go through scripture, and you find resonance with kind of your experience, so you come to a knowing. Now, a knowing is different from a belief. To believe in something literally means I do not know. I do not know.
I don't need you to explain knowing and believing to me because I do really well with vocabulary. Hang on one second. Hey, Jesse, did you have a question for Rabbi?
Yeah, I did. It was about the passage you were reading earlier in Numbers.
Okay, go ahead.
35.
No, that's
So,
okay. Let's
I don't know,
talk
that's a
about it.
pretty different
Okay.
verse.
No, that's okay. Let's talk about it.
Awesome. So I was just curious, Rabbi, if you had any insight into why the death of the high priest would terminate that exile. I've read different ideas on it, but nobody seems to really have like one real answer, so I was just really curious.
Because it marks the start of a new era, because then you have a new high priest who comes in. One who is not, one who, in fact, hold on a minute, let me pull it back up.
You guys,
It just seems arbitrary. like no, like what
Well,
do
this
you
is,
think
you have to
happens the next
understand,
day?
this is a people who everything that they do is predicated by the priestly class. They go to the priestly class for everything. So for atonement, for understanding what they're supposed to do, for Sabbath, for everything is this priestly class. So the high priest is really who helps to curate and create the environment in which the people live. Hold on a second, I gotta get there. Where was I? I had put my humash away already. I apologize.
And you guys keep tapping the screen, sharing out the live, doing all
Do not apologize. And you guys keep tapping the screen, sharing out the live, doing all the good stuff. And thank you so much for 44,000 likes and for the 22 heart me's. If you haven't sent your heart me and collected your team points, make sure you go do that. And all the popular votes and all the gifts, I really appreciate it. Make sure you give the amazing Rabbi Hannah as well. Then anybody you want up here.
Give me just a second. Let me check another one of my sources really quick. Because I'm reading it, but I want to check and see if this is now where I get to go check out the count. Hold on a second.
Absolutely.
Got a follow-up question afterwards, if you don't mind, which is kind of related.
Absolutely. Hey Ashra, hey Corpseman, good to have you in. Good to see you, Ash.
Hey Ashra, hey Corpseman, good to have you in. It's good to see you, Ash. Welcome in, Deborah. Good to see everybody. Ty here. Thank you for your heart. Your heart matters. I know, I don't say it like him. Your heart. No, I can't even. I can't do that.
You can put the microphone and do a little voice changer on it, and then I can.
I needed to get my microphone and do the little voice changer on it, and then I could do it.
Oh, that would be amazing. Maybe you could get like a deep voice setting so like Min could hear you.
Yes, if I just put a little bass in it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's because when the high priest dies, symbolically is a national atonement event, resetting impurity caused by any bloodshed, which is what, yeah. So when all of the belief is that the land itself could be polluted, and it could be polluted by bloodshed. The death or the death of a high priest, because there will be a new high priest ascending, resets that almost like a Shemitah or a celebration year that resets the land so that everything is wiped clean and we start over. Because the high priest represents the whole nation. The high priest carries Israel's guilt symbolically. That's why you go to the high priest for your atonement. He represents the entire people before God. So his death marks the end of his moral era. So in that sense, anyone who's accidentally, like the accidental unaliver's guilt is tied to the priestly era. The priestly era in which like that death occurred.
Okay. Well, that's really interesting. And thanks so much for...
Yeah, I looked it up. No, I thought I had it right, but I wanted to just make sure. Yeah, so I went to Mishnah Machal, and I'm like, yep, that's what it is. Mishnah Machal 66.
Heard. No, that's it. I was just.
Can we heard? Don't think. No, that's it. I was just finding something in the chat. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I read some interesting ideas about it, but
I'm sure
that makes the most sense of anything I've heard. So,
is that had anybody ever explained it that way prior to today?
I had not seen that. I didn't like do a bunch of research on it or anything like that. Just browsing around the Judaism Stack Exchange, you know.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well, no, I think that's Stack Exchange is pretty cool.
Brother,
Yeah,
did you have a
super
question?
Brother, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask the rabbi about this kind of mercurial sort of character that I think was it Abraham or was it Moses? I can't remember. Melchizedek.
Yes, which just means righteous king.
Yeah, because I'm trying to remember who it was that received the prophethood from him. How is
that a follow-up question to what Devil just asked me?
No, but because in terms of, you mentioned kind of high priest, I believe that Melchizedek was one.
No, sort of. but it isn't a name of a person. Melchizedek just means righteous king. Melech, Zedek.
Yeah. So, and I don't know, because I know that I don't know the story or how it kind of relates, but I know through the Islamic lens that Moses is supposed to have met this particular figure before kind of receiving his kind of prophethood, or was blessed by him, I think. And I think, if I'm correct, you can only receive a blessing from someone, or through the Judaic tradition, from someone that holds a status higher than you. And so, kind of.
What is this? I'm trying to figure out, why are you using what Islam has to say as comparison to what Judaism has to say?
Well, that's why I'm asking you what Judaism is saying indirectly. That's what I'm actually asking you.
Well, it would be awesome if you spoke English. Like both of us speak English, but we're not speaking the same language.
I asked you quite directly who he was, what his status was.
And I answered you quite directly.
You just said High King.
I said it means righteous king. I didn't say High King, I said it means righteous king. Melech, Zedek. But it does not say who it is. It doesn't give you a name. I'm so sorry that the middle of my sentence interrupted the first of yours. But all it means is righteous king. I did not give you a person because there's no person in the name. It just says that Abraham is, I believe it's Abraham, is blessed by the Melech Zedek. That's it. The righteous king.
King of Salem, right?
That actually might be correct.
Priest of God Most High is another name for him. And the reason I'm asking
You're going to have to give me a minute. I'm going to have to say the Shema. Give me just a second.
Chet said yes. Chet said yes. You guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for tapping the screen. I'm sorry, what, Jess?
You guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for tapping the screen. I'm sorry, what, Jess?
Sorry. I said I don't know if this isn't really connected to what I was
Okay,
asking
thanks
about.
for being here. And I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, thanks for being here. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. Excited. Come learn Hebrew alphabet, people.
Hell yeah. See you then.
All right, thanks.
The Hebrew alphabet is really good. So sorry, I needed a moment. So as I was saying, I don't understand the need to try and connect Islam to Judaism. Islam is its own.
Fine. Okay, Genesis 14.
Yes, what about it?
18 to 20, I think it mentions him there.
Okay, yes, what about it?
No, I'm asking you.
What are you asking about it, though?
This is your description, not mine.
Can I be real honest with
But
you?
what are you asking about it, though? I don't. Can I be real honest with you, brother? I feel like you didn't come up here to learn stuff, but instead kind of share some of the little pieces of knowledge you have, and then try to take that knowledge and try to make conversation.
Let me
I'm
just
not
be
in the
clear.
middle of I'm understanding what in the middle of Crystal saying.
Can I just be very clear about this?
But can you let me finish what I'm saying? Can you let me finish what I'm saying before you start talking?
Coming up
Okay, the way it sounded is that you are coming up here to share knowledge you have and try to make a conversation out of your knowledge you already have with the rabbi to like show everybody something or whatever. It doesn't feel like a genuine conversation with genuine questions. It feels very much like you just came up here so everybody could hear what you know.
Okay, that's not the case, because I genuinely am. I've come across this kind of character, Melchizedek, who does fascinate me, and having looked a little bit into it, it's a bit of a stumbling block for me, and so I know that this is part of the Judaic tradition. So I'm honest in this. I just want to know if you can shed any light on it for me, so it's genuine. Now, I'm sorry if my manner has kind of put forward any other intention than that, but I don't like contention, I don't like arguments. I'm genuinely someone that is a spiritual seeker and a learner and trying to pick up knowledge. And
my apologies, you're still speaking.
No, but that's me in a nutshell. And I apologize.
Okay, so the thing is that you say I'm asking you a question, but you don't actually ask me a question. So what is your question about Melchizedek?
My question about him is that he appears incredibly mysterious. He seems to, because he blesses Abraham, what I read was that you can only receive a blessing by someone who holds a higher rank, sort of spiritually, than the person that's being blessed. So the reason why this fascinates me is because, and I know you mentioned earlier on that this isn't a kind of case in genealogy, and because as a Jew you would kind of deny the existence or the legitimacy of Christianity and Islam. I don't have a dog in any of these races, right? So I kind of stand outside of it. And I see the linkage that the three faiths come from the essentially the sons of Abraham, Ishmael and Isaac. So then Abraham becomes a pivotal figure that links the three. And so someone who blesses Abraham, who has a higher potentially spiritual rank, because you have to in the Judaic tradition to receive a blessing, becomes an incredibly important character. And the fact that he's immaterial and not a lot is known about him just adds to the mystery. And so that's why I'm interested in this character. And I was just hoping that you could shed a little bit more light. Because everywhere I've looked, he just becomes more mysterious, not less.
He does become more mysterious, but again, so you said, I have a question, then you said, I looked up Melchizedek, and what I read, he's this material person, and here's why it's important to me.
Yeah.
What is your question?
My question is what would be someone, how would we classify Melchizedek when he has the ability to bless Abraham, who is essentially a prophet? What in spiritual terms is someone higher than the prophet? Because technically, prophets held the highest rank. They were messengers that delivered a message to a people, a nation at that time. And they came, and if you follow the lines of the prophets, they all came with different.
But I gotta stop you because your question ends up being a dissertation every time, and we lose it. But also, why would you think that the prophet is higher than a priest? You couldn't even go into the temple unless you were a priest of the highest order. So what are you talking about?
No, but that's what I'm trying to understand. So I'm trying to understand what is the spiritual hierarchy.
That's all the Melchizedek was. It says he was a priest of the God Most High. And all he does is bless Abraham by saying, blessed be Abram by the God Most High, maker of heaven and earth. And blessed be the God Most High, who has delivered you from your enemies, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And Abraham then gave him a tenth of everything because you tied to the priest.
Okay. So this is interesting then, because now what I'm trying to understand is this is great, because for me it's trying to understand how it works. So would a priest rank as higher than a prophet at that time or not? And if a priest is ranked higher than a prophet, why aren't the names of these priests more prominent than the prophets? Surely the scriptures should come from them rather than
Aaron. The Levites? What are you talking about?
They are listed.
There's like entire chapters that do
But
nothing.
they are
Tell
listed.
you how.
There's like entire chapters that do nothing but tell you how Aaron has to be dressed, okay? And every detail about that garment, down to the flag. Yeah, what are you talking about? They definitely talk about the priests, and they give them so much. And we just went over in numbers about like their boundaries and their land that they're to be given and everything. What are you talking about? I don't feel like you read any of this.
No, but that, I said
Hey, hold on
that.
one second. Let me ask Mindset really quick if he has a question. Mindset, can I get your age for TikTok purposes?
Nice to meet you.
I'm 41.
Believer of the God of the Bible.
Nice to meet you. Are you a Christian or a believer of the God of the Bible?
Okay, did you have a question today for the rabbi?
No.
Okay, did you have a question today for the rabbi?
Yes, I did.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm when I asked the rabbi, what's the deeper meaning behind the usage of water? I see it being utilized as cleansing rites, then I look at it in the Noah's flood, it being used as judgment. The priest and they had to wash themselves before they got in the temple or bathe themselves in the bronze laver. What's just the deeper meaning behind the water, and when did that start?
Well, we have that water from the very beginning. If you look at the very beginning of creation, God literally breathed over the waters of the deep and said, let there be light. So we have water at the very beginning of creation. Water becomes this powerful thing because it is part of the act of creation itself.
Oh, you got bars, Mindset.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, you got
Bars.
bars, Mindset. Try again, Mindset. I think that, yeah, I can hear you.
Try again, Mindset. I think, yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so therefore, when it was utilized, when Exodus before the Israelites received the law on Mount Sinai, God told them to wash their clothes. What is He trying to get them to understand when He tells them to wash their clothes? How come He did not tell them just wash your body? What is the washing the clothes supposed to signify?
Well, even any utensil, any wall, any house, any sheet, anything can become impure. So it's not just people, but anything can become impure, and if the goal is to be ultimately pure, then everything needs to be washed. And I was just going to add also, like, living waters is like part of this. Like something that can be is in the womb state. And so in this, the idea that the soul is ultimately pure is the idea that water is what creates that sense of purity. So remove the Christian sensibilities from anything and understand it simply from the Jewish perspective.
Yeah, so, I don't know if you were here earlier, but we were talking about how the land itself can be polluted. The land itself acts almost as its own character within the biblical text. And so in that, things around it can help to pollute it. So making sure that the objects, the people, the things are as pure as possible also helps to try and keep the land itself in its purest state.
Okay. And my last question, Rabbi, is explain the kingdom of God that the Israelites were waiting for the Messiah and to come. Can you explain that as far as like kind of just the kingdom of God and everything that went into that?
I'm so sorry. Can you reframe that for me, because I'm having difficulty understanding, and it might be communication on my part, absolutely. But what you're saying, I'm not quite picking up on.
So I'm saying, so the kingdom of God, right? I think, or let me rephrase. They were hoping for a future. They are hoping for a future Messiah, correct? And which is what the prophets spoke about, right?
there's been a lot of Messiah just means like anointed one. So when you're talking about a Messiah, I think that you might be coming from it from like a Christian viewpoint, even if you're not a Christian. But we exist in a world where the term Messiah ultimately is tantamount and equitable to this idea of a Christian Messiah. So there's been lots of Messiahs. Even the priests are called anointed ones if you look into the text in the Hebrew. So this idea of this ultimate Messiah does not really stand true as much with Judaism because we've had lots. Like there's been some, and then there's been some that we think have been more. Like the ultimate like Messiah is more of a Christian concept than it is a Jewish one.
Okay. And also, I have a lot of questions, but I probably just my last one. When Solomon when God asks Solomon, ask me anything, I'll give you. Why did he give him wisdom? Because David was a man of God's own heart, had that relationship. So why did he give him wisdom if he knew that wisdom would kind of separate him from, as we see, kind of went astray?
So did David.
Yeah, but David was a man after God's own heart. Like his wisdom came from God.
Well, then his wisdom stopped.
But Solomon
look at what David did. So yes, it does say that David was a man after God's own heart, and Solomon is given wisdom because wisdom is ultimately when you are told, give me anything I want, and he gives you wisdom. Ultimately, the idea of wisdom being gifted is to help you have discernment, so that hopefully you avoid the missteps that previous people have done. Now, does that work? No, we still see that Solomon also has his own missteps. But I think that is also just human nature, that to think that any one of us is going to have perfection is, no one is. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all on a line, at least in my mind. Every one of us is on a line where we're either closer to the ideal that God wishes or we're farther away. And with every choice and every decision that we move closer on that line or we move farther away. Hopefully we are making choices that move us closer, and hopefully wisdom and discernment helps us with that.
Yeah, I guess I'm just confused as to, because, and I know you just explained it, but it's just, because he never had that relationship like David had. You know how David, came to the Lord, asked him, what he wanted him to do. I never saw Solomon doing that. Although he had all the wisdom, it doesn't seem his wisdom was better than David's wisdom. And I just, to me, I would think God would give him a heart to seek him versus wisdom. That's all I'm saying. It just confused me on that. I just was confused on the differentiation between the relationships that David had versus Solomon.
It's not necessarily wisdom. He's asking for discernment. He's asking for a heart that hears. So I think that we get this idea that it's automatic wisdom, but what Solomon asks for is literally a heart that hears, a heart that can discern, have moral judgment, attentiveness, more than rather intelligence.
Thank you so much for coming out, Mindset.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much for coming on Mindset.
Rabbi, welcome
Appreciate
back.
you.
Hey, Chet, welcome up.
Hey, Robin. Hey, Rabbi. Welcome back. And hey, Chet. Welcome up. Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hi.
Does anybody else have a question for the rabbi?
Does anybody else have a question for the rabbi?
I was just going to comment on wisdom as it appears in the Bible really quick, because this is kind of a general term, and it covers a little bit more than what I think a lot of people in English would say.
is understood by wisdom, sort of like the wisdom of, it means probably something more like skill. I think when we translate wisdom, we mean something like skill in living, or something like that. But, you can have the wisdom of, the ability to make something, right? And it just refers to having skill in that.
That brings, that makes it's a skill issue, mean a whole new thing.
Is that the Betzalel? Is Betzalel uses wisdom?
I was thinking of Chokmah. I don't know if they translate. Yeah, if it's those.
Well, I'm asking in the text with the creating the like the Ark of the Covenant and all that. Does Betzalel do they have Chokmah? Is that what's described?
I believe so.
Interesting. Cool.
Yeah, I'll look it up real quick. I'm pretty sure that is the word in the the tabernacle construction. I know it shows up there at some point.
Can you go to the bathroom, stupid? Oh, sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. I'm still playing Sims.
Talking to a child or something.
You talking to a child or something?
I thought you were talking about little dogs or something like that. That's where my mind went.
Yeah, me too.
No, I'm talking to my sim who is standing there like having to blather and it's like not doing anything. I'm like, will you just do it then?
Just going to say, I've always thought of wisdom as kind of the difference between kind of knowledge and wisdom, where sort of knowledge is kind of knowing something about something. I've always thought of the practical utility of that knowledge. So how you actually use that knowledge in practice, how you apply that knowledge. So basically, wisdom is knowledge given practical utility that serves the purpose of solving an issue.
That sounds like a very wise thing to say. I have to agree. A saying that's always stuck with me is, it goes something like, true wisdom is learning from other people's mistakes as opposed to you learning the mistakes yourself. I'm probably butchering it, but you understand what I mean. Like,
that's a great way of putting it.
And I feel like history is an excellent example of that, because
No, so I just brought somebody up.
Did somebody say something?
Was not muted, so go ahead.
No, so I just brought somebody up, and his mic was not muted, so go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say, I feel like history is a great source of wisdom that we can all learn from, or at least as much history as is available to us. Because typically speaking, the winners of wars, for example, are going to have a different narrative of what actually happened. But we can all look to the past and see the mistakes and transgressions that other people have made and learn from it and use it in our daily lives, apply it. And that's wisdom.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a great definition. So basically, it's knowledge that's applied to life. Wisdom becomes kind of knowledge that's lived directly.
Let me qualify the latest.
Can you guys give me just 1 second? Let me qualify the latest. You guys, people, can I get change for TikTok purposes?
Christian or a believer of the God of the Bible?
40s.
Okay, and are you a Christian or a believer of the God of the Bible?
Deathless?
I'm Christian.
Can I get your age for TikTok purposes?
Okay, hang on 1 second. And then death, can I get your age for TikTok purposes?
Sure, 46.
All right, are you a Christian or a believer of the God of the Bible?
Yes.
Okay, we'll be with you in a minute. They were talking about something, then people will have the next question, and then it'll be your turn. Okay, continue. I think Chet was looking something up. Was that what was going on?
I did find it, yeah. Chokmah is used
I
there.
have a question. Or Hevel. It's Hevel.
Okay, Hebel, did you have a question? Or Hevel? It's Hevel. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I did. It's a slightly, for the rabbis, it's a slightly technical question.
but it's something that struggling to understand.
Hit me. I'll try my best.
Okay, so I've been reading this book about Genesis and about the separation of J and P source.
Right?
And the author makes quite a strong claim about that there is a distinct difference in Hebrew between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2.
Hold on. Heather, before you start, like the issue is the JPED are already outdated sort of understandings of.
That's debatable. I think there's not.
For simplicity.
I think that's debated.
Yeah, I would say P and not P is generally accepted. There's a bit of debate as far as J-E and then J-R.
Yeah, there's a split between J.
Right, yeah.
But let's call it P, it doesn't matter. The split is P and non-P. But the author makes a claim that the Hebrew in Genesis 2 is distinct from the Hebrew in P. And he cites function words, conjunctions, propositions, and adverbs. And he lists a bunch of Hebrew which are sort of unique to that layer source and puts it in the bracket of what he would call classical biblical Hebrew, whereas he would put P in later biblical Hebrew or transitional biblical Hebrew. And I was just wondering if any of this makes sense. So the words that he cites is erem, or not yet, being followed by an imperfect. Pen, meaning lest, occurs uniquely. We'll do one more, he's got a bunch of like 7. And
what does it say? Apex ground. You're saying it's a single-use word?
No, it occurs often in CBH.
Oh, I see.
Okay. And excuse my pronunciation. Maddie, with me, occurs often in CBH where it varies with IMNI, compare MD in the early 6th century and Edomite inscription. So basically the question is, does any of this make sense? And is there a...
What book are you writing? Or reading, I'm sorry.
It's Handel, Genesis 1 to 11.
Oh, Handel's good. Handel's really good. That's a brand new book, isn't it?
I was going to say, I hadn't heard of it, so it might be, it must be. Although now I got to put it on my list. Hold on a second, now I got to write a note to pick it up.
Yeah, so Handel did a really nice, like a critical analysis of Genesis 1 through 11. But then he just recently started, he did publish the first volume of an Anchor Bible commentary on those passages. And then I think, is that the Anchor Bible?
Yeah.
It's the Anchor? Okay, hold on a minute. I'm writing this down so I can read it. Because honestly, I want to be real with you. I have not read it, so it would be hard for me to speak to it without doing a lot of research myself.
Yeah, I'll have to look into his arguments. My understanding generally is that most of the Pentateuch is going to be in the form of classical Hebrew. I don't think that you really get what we would, someone like Avi Horowitz would call late biblical Hebrew. I don't think you get almost any of that. I don't think like you could take a source like J or P and say, this is written in late biblical Hebrew. I think it's all classical Hebrew. Now, whether you can find distinctions between those, it sounds like he's attempting to make that argument. So I'd be really interested. But I don't know.
I'm kind of curious, is it obvious from reading it, or do you have to really go looking at these differences? Or is there an archaic language in J that kind of sticks out?
Yeah, so I think there's something that is actually often overlooked that I think is really separates this text from Genesis 1, which is chapter 2, verse 4. Eila toldot, Hashemayim v'haaretz. This phrase is connecting that story with the other iterations of Eila. And to me, it actually sort of notices or it distinguishes itself from the previous creation story. And it's actually saying, look, there are multiple creation stories that are being recorded here. And it is actually being quite honest about the fact that Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 and 3 are not connected, and they're not meant to be read melded
One
together.
second, okay?
So
You guys think
Before we go any further, hang on 1 second, okay? You guys, thank you for the 73,000 likes, for the heart me's, for sharing. I'll be live for about 20 more minutes. If you're enjoying the show and you don't want me to end in 20 minutes, all you have to do is help me reach my gift goal of the octopus. I have 930 right now. If I reach gift goal, I stay alive for another hour. If not all, and you know what? Gifts are appreciated. They are not expected, but it does help when I'm gifted. It helps me be able to stay alive a little bit longer. If not, I'll go have lunch and I'll see y'all tomorrow. But during Hebrew class, not here live. You know, we meet on Discord. Hebrew class tomorrow at 11 a.m. in my Discord. By the way, I'm over in the Discord, and I remember to go to the live chat, and I'm all alone over there. So if you're on my Discord, I'm hanging out in the live chat all by myself. Come hang out with me. Okay, go ahead and continue the conversation, but we need to get to Deathless here because I think he has a question too. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
For your own sake, Crystal, Deathless is not going to be like a contributor to this conversation.
I know.
No,
we don't have to start right now. We don't have to start right now arguing. Just, I already know who he is. I know who he is.
Yeah, just to answer Hevel real quick, I would not be able to detect just by reading that we're dealing with late Hebrew.
It's not my fault you're using falsify. It's not my fault.
Why are you interrupting right now?
I know that other people are speaking, and we'll get to you.
So I can get to you. Okay.
Sure.
I said I would do next. I asked people to finish up so I could get to you. Okay, so let them finish.
But yeah, no, I would just say it reads like classical Hebrew. I can find a couple of things, like the use of the he mater to indicate like a third masculine singular suffix. You see that in pretty much all the sources. In the Pentateuch, that tends to be an earlier feature. Things like that. In P, for example, we have the what's called a hierocompagenes, a type of intermediate ancient vowel that gets preserved in certain grammar forms.
Without the yud, right?
Sorry?
Without the yud and mater. Is that accurate?
So yeah. It has the law mater instead, but this is the same phenomenon, correct? Yeah. So I could point to different things. I think that point to like an early Hebrew for most of the Pentateuch. But I'd be interested to see his arguments. Again, I don't know. It would definitely be something that you have to go looking into to detect. But there might be something there.
Can I just highlight really quickly? So what Chet was just saying is that there are certain letters in Hebrew that because Hebrew we don't really use vowels as in its written sense. We use vowels to like learn how to read it and to make sure that we're pronouncing it and to make sure that we're parsing out the grammar properly. But what Chet is saying is that there are certain letters like hey and yud that if you come to the Hebrew class you'll learn about. But they function sort of to tell you what the actual sound is. They help you fill in what the construction of the word is. So, for example, in English, when we have the letter Y at the end of the word he, it helps to elongate the E vowel, and it assists as a vowel. Or like the letter H at the end of the word ba, right? It tells us that it is a long ah sound. And so the same thing happens in Hebrew with certain letters like yud and hey.
I like the way you said ba.
Yeah, it's important.
Can I try and understand it? Because I'm playing the game catch up. So, when you said P and non-P, so that P is kind of like priestly, right? And so is what we're saying here that there's a narrative sort of language difference that occurs between Genesis 1 and 2, where basically there's two different traditions that are kind of being written, and somehow, if there's some kind of editing going on within Genesis, that the two are kind of merged to come together in the Torah. And I've just kind of tried to look it up, because I'm a little bit lost. I'm not going to lie. And so like a difference would be in Genesis 1, where it refers to Elohim as God. But then Genesis 2 and 3 use, is it Yahweh, Elohim, or the Lord God? So that's two different traditions, essentially.
There's a wonderful book by Joel Baden called The Neo-Documentary Hypothesis, which would be, if you're interested, it would be a great place to jump off. But so there's long since been noted the potential intertwining of two sources. But the question of the language is, are there any clues of which one is antecedent to the other? Can we tell one came before the other or not?
I think there's even more clues, like just in the narrative arcs, like in what sort of source material is being used, like what parallel mythologies are being used, sort of what are the underpinning messages that are being expressed, and even asking ourselves when and why were they written. So like I'm working on it now, and I love Chad, I love your input into it, but I'm trying to create sort of a document that lists the archaeological history on one side and where texts sort of line up in that history on the other side.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
I'd
love
to
to help.
back to what you just said in a second, Rob, but I want to go ahead and
I do want to get back to what you just said in a second, Rob, but I want to go ahead and see. Douglas, did you have a question for the rabbi today?
Well, in this particular instance, I was going to say that now that I know you have a rabbi, it sort of clears up the equivocation. But in this particular instance, I was going to say that using Jewish sources to interpret the Bible. So important.
What does the word equivocation mean? Hold on one second. What does the word equivocation mean?
Equivocation means the process of general elimination between two. Equivocation means the process of logical elimination.
That's not what equivocation means.
Without justification.
It means being unclear and obfuscating in speech.
I just said that far more accurately.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. Elimination means eliminating one meaning to another, and then another meaning to another one. Transitive relationship means transformation between standard and state. So how's it loose? So you'll step on it. Just look to a Gentile.
Nobody's in a competition. Hey, nobody's in a competition. Okay?
Excuse me. No,
it's okay. Relax a little. Nobody's in a competition. Excuse me. Nobody is in a competition. Nobody is trying to be you right now. In case you didn't know before you came up here, excuse me, Robin, can you please keep it muted for me? Thank you.
His name is Michael. We don't have to call him by the ridiculous name Deathless.
Okay. Are you there?
His name's nothing. He doesn't even exist in my God.
Robin, are you there? Listen very carefully to me, Michael. Nobody is in competition. Until you came up here, all of us of different faiths were having a very calm conversation, and we were learning from each other, and we were asking questions, and we were answering questions, and we were having a conversation. And I really wanted to join in that conversation, but I think you think you're in a debate space right now, and you're not. So I think you're lost in the first place, and there's no prize here to be won. Nobody here is going to win a prize. You don't get a gold star if you're up here and you're beating people, okay? Because nobody's in competition with you, sir. We're having a conversation with you. If you want to engage in conversation, you're more than welcome to stay, but if you came up here to win a prize, you're in the wrong life, and you should probably leave now. So what did you want to do? Did you want to have a conversation, or were you having a competition?
Quit saying you're winning.
Well, first I want to have a conversation. Two, I was making a point.
Then quit saying you're winning. winning. Then you quit saying you're winning. Okay, because there's no winning. Nobody's going to give you a gold star. Okay, I told you you're in the wrong. You're in the wrong. If you guys want to know something, it's $10 to draw the gas. It's $10, and you can send that to my Venmo or my Throne. And it's, it's just that easy. But Douglas, nobody's up here trying to compete with you. You're competing with yourself, and you're still losing.
That's just an opinion.
You're right. And
And
I
then
say
there's
yes,
someone
I'm grandma.
Phronimos, I'm
So-
grandma. You're right.
Can
And
I
I
miss,
know
whatever you
you're
actually
winning
make my
more than
proposition
grandma.
while you miss, can I make my proposition? Thank you.
What is your
So
proposition?
after the destruction of the Second Temple, the Romans confiscated all Jewish literature. It was completely confiscated by the Roman Empire. And the only surviving remnants of Jewish literature were in the hands of three different sects. They were called Judaizers, Hellenizers, and Gnostics, and they were Christians. Now, Marcion compiled the very first Bible, and he was a Christian Gnostic. So when Marcion compiled the very first Bible as a Christian Gnostic, the Hellenizers came up with a counter response to it by putting together a Septuagint in Greek, which is effectively the oldest translation of scripture that we have until we discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls. All Jewish Tanakh, all Jewish Midrash, all Jewish literature is borrowed from the actual surviving manuscripts that Christians chose for the purposes of substantiating messianic mission. So when Jews go ahead and they're actually teaching Bible, they're teaching it as a surreptition of the actual Christian literature, which alone has a surviving source literature. It's secondary sources based off Christian manuscripts, and for that reason, it has only auxiliary authority. So if you want to understand,
I just want to say
What is the
one
question
thing.
you have in there? Because
He doesn't have a question.
Crystal
Jews don't have
asked
authority on
me,
this
said,
issue.
do you have a question
They
for
want
the
authority.
rabbi? I happen to be one of the rabbis. There's two of them in here. So when Crystal said you have a question for the rabbi, and then you came up, we are under the assumption you had a question for one of us, not
I did, but I got
no
answers.
participate.
I did, but I got
He
answered.
just said what he had to say.
He does not have a question because he just said what he had to say, and I just blocked him, so it'll take a minute for him to fall off here. But he said that the Gentiles are superior. And so what do you want to do?
I don't understand the need. What I don't understand is, I will tell you all day long that Christianity and Judaism is different. I don't say one is superior to the other because I don't see it in gauges of who can win. We are just different. We approach text differently. We approach our religion much differently. But to think that one of us is better, I don't understand what you gain from that. What anyone gains from the idea that one is better. We're just different.
Like saying red is better than blue.
When argumentatively, it's actually teal is the better one.
I knew who he was.
my
when I
favorite color.
brought him up.
Just so everybody knows, I knew who he was when I brought him up. I knew that was who he was. Okay? Did I know he was so anti-Semitic? I did not know that. Okay, but Leslie pointed out to me in Discord. Nicholas is over there, DMing me in Discord. Everybody's trying to tell me, but he is gone. He's been blocked. I will not be bringing Deathless the Antichrist on my back.
There was a couple of
And I won.
Yeah, you did. For anybody who's listening to this, you can't, the language that he was using about how Gentiles will automatically have this superior understanding of the scriptures. All Jewish people, that is super anti-Semitic. That's fucked up. Don't say that. Also, he didn't know anything about history.
I would disagree with anti-Semitic. I think he's just a dick.
I agree. He is a dick. But additionally, he was spreading misinformation because I double-checked this. I have this in front of me right now. The Septuagint was something that was created by the request of Ptolemy II of Philadelphus between 285 and 247 BC. So his claim that the Septuagint was something that was created in the AD Common Era time.
Wait, I have to
he pulled that right out of that.
because
Okay, wait, I have to address something in chat really quick because
the only thing they can say about me
Phronimos, who
It's not
the only thing they can say about me is that I'm granny. Okay, it's not an insult to be old. I hope that for all of you that you grow to be old too. Like if you think that calling somebody old or insinuating that they're old is an insult, you're just an idiot. But the fact that you said you can't read my name,
and you're calling me.
You can't read my name.
Trying to insult me and
you're calling me granny and trying to insult me and idiot. You can't even fucking read a name that's right there on the screen in front of you.
Sir,
I think you need glasses, sir. I think you're getting old, sir.
I do too. It's been amazing. I don't know why they think they're insulting me by calling me.
I do too. It's been amazing. I don't know why they think they're insulting me by calling me granny.
Beautiful grandma.
I'm a grandma, and I'm proud of it. I have the best, most beautiful grandchildren ever.
Maybe you're
like that's not an insult, you idiot.
So
maybe your grandchild wants to die young.
Die young. Go die young.
So Fronimos, the loser. If you want to die young, go die young. I don't care. I wanted to live, so I'm still alive.
Asswipe. Everybody's told you to use my name, and you
because you're trying to use it as an insult. Asswipe. Everybody's told you to use my name, and you can't seem to do it because you said you can't read it.
Sure,
which is really
Do you mind if I address something? Do you mind if I address something?
Sure, go ahead.
Where it says female rabbis. Bobby. Yes, and did you know we can vote too?
Oh my.
We can vote, as it turns out. I can drive a car. I can have my own bank account. So go me. And by the way, reform is a completely valid form of Judaism, in case anyone will tell you otherwise. Being reform is a completely valid form of Judaism. While I am not reform, it is a completely valid stream of Judaism, and to think that just because there are women rabbis that we all must be reformed is a misnomer.
Now he goes, Granny is mad for no reason. I'm just sitting here smiling.
Granny is mad for no reason. I'm just sitting here smiling. What the hell?
Why does it have to be female rabbi and not women rabbi? Women rabbi. Like, you can tell where their mind is based on the language that they're using. Because we are not animals, we are human beings, we are women.
Fronimos, why don't you come up? Why are you sitting down there in chat being like a little...
Fronimos, why don't you come up? Why are you sitting down there in chat being like a little scared child? Why don't you come up and talk to me? You got so much to say about me.
Women for no other reason. We're up here having a very, very nice...
Just degrading women for no other reason. We're up here having a very, very nice conversation. And you're just sitting down there being a little annoying gnat. That's what you are, like a little annoying gnat.
And so is the chat to say my name and stop calling me Granny.
Because I've asked you, and so is the chat to say my name and stop calling me Granny. I'm not your grandma, so don't call me that.
Is this like a king thing for you,
We have just a few more minutes. If anybody else has any questions or anything.
Hey guys, we have just a few more minutes. If anybody else has any questions or anything they want to go over on the panel, please feel free. If you guys want me to stick around, I still need a few more octopus, but if not, that's okay. I will go eat some lunch and prepare for, I need to study my Hebrew anyway.
I have one question. And hopefully somebody can answer it for me, because no one ever answers it, and that is, who is Kaiser Soze?
Oh, you're a deathless man. Are you Fronimos? And that's what this is about.
Oh, you're a deathless man. Are you Fronimos? And that's what this is about. I kicked your little friend, the anti-Semite, off my panel, and now you're sad, Fronimos? I'm so sorry. That must be really hard for you. Oh my gosh. Can I get baby bottles in chat for Fronimos? Because he's sad. His friend got kicked out of here. That's sad.
Listen, little man, with the little... I know.
Listen, little man, with the little... I know, you're so weird.
Kaiser Soze is a fictional character and main antagonist in the 1995 film The Unusual Suspects.
Yeah, I know who he is. It's a joke.
It's a joke.
It's verbal twin. That's serious.
I had to look it up. I didn't know anything about this. This came up here.
My best friend and I, when we are on live together, if I'm on live, he will come in just long enough to say, I have a question for the rabbi, who is CrystalJae, and then he leaves. And then I do that to him when he's live. I will go in and be like, who's CrystalJae?
It's really weird that Deathless has
It's really weird that Deathless has Muslims who defend him. That's weird. Muslims who defend him, and he had to send all his friends in. This is a man,
and so
who could not engage in a conversation.
This man that went
and
told all of his
I kicked him out of my life. And this man that went and told all of his little friends from middle school to go
low
bully.
self-esteem do you have that you come
What
up
kind
here
of
and think you won
low self-esteem do you have that you come up here and think you won something when we're not even in a competition?
When boundaries are set,
then when
you send all your children.
When boundaries are set, you're kicked out, you're blocked. You send all your children in here to bully the host.
Like he sounds like the
what kind of a life do you have? What kind of self-esteem? Like he sounds like the tiniest little insecure man of all.
Or whatever. Like he has some really
to have names like Deathless or whatever. Like he has some really weird usernames too. It's so weird.
He needs to change his name to Tutorial Boss. Because he's not boss.
Well, I'm not on live too much right now. My daughter is, her autism is taking a lot of my time just because the nature of what's going on with her. So I'm mostly like co-regulating her. Today is the day that I actually have a little bit of a break. But is this what's happening like on lives all the time now? Is just this isn't an offense?
They just like, I don't really understand.
They really want to. They just like. I don't really understand. Like, I picture that these are all
can't get laid.
Guys 40 and younger who can't get laid to save them.
But when I was
to save their lives, because I am so sorry. But when I was their age and single, and it was a Friday night, I would not have thought, you know what I'm going to do is go yell at people on the internet and call them names. Even if the internet existed, that would not have been what I wanted to do. I would have been out, having fun, like just living life, going to parties, doing stuff.
No, I'm my mods will be like whatsoever.
No, I'm okay because my mods will mute him once I'm done playing with him. I'm just playing with my food at this point.
But I'm gonna make you a mod anyway.
I do that too, but my wife generally enjoys it.
But I'm gonna make you a mod anyway, Otter, because you're amazing.
Wait, say it again. I talked over the part of it.
Man.
I know I talked over your life.
Yeah. Can I just say?
I know what I'm. Oh.
I just want to say.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother. I didn't hear you.
No, I just want to say thanks for the live. I think Chat and Rav have opened up a little bit of a rabbit hole for me now, but actually it's quite a beautiful one because. So you mentioned kind of Baden and that sort of in your documentary, and so coming from that, it looks like there's sort of 4 independent sort of narrative documents or 4 traditions. Now, I think what's more scripturally normal is to choose one, but to actually harmonize 4 and to keep 4, even though they represent sort of contradictions. Is kind of like a beautiful way of saying
that's not quite how that works. Not quite, brother. So what they're proposing is what the proposition here is the idea, and I think I used that word wrong, so I apologize. Is that there are some core texts, and that from those core texts there were additions to those texts as time moved forward to clarify the text, to expand on the text, to help with clean the narration of the text, and that those are the other layers depending on the use of those layers or what the use of those layers are going to be. So that idea of like P or not P being like the priestly layer versus non-priestly layer. So what Baden, So originally, the first kind of idea of the documentary hypothesis comes from a man named Julius Wellhausen in like the 1800s.
Yeah.
And he's the one who kind of posits that there are these different narrative layers that then come together and do harmonize to create what we know as the scripture. Now, Joel Baden goes in and says, I think that it is not quite the way that Julius Wellhausen posits it, and kind of separates it in a different way. And I actually like Joel Baden. He's a pretty good author. I'm right now
focuses on the narrative.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I actually talked to my teacher's assistant to see if I can get the new handle. I'm like, hey, can you hunt down this book for me? I want to read this new book for the Anchor Bible Commentary series.
Right. What do you think about the Deuteronomistic layers, DTRH?
Okay, so
that's where things are a little wild.
It does for me too. Now, I know I have a couple of friends and colleagues who are very much love the Deuteronomistic. I never can say it right. I apologize. This is what happens when you grow up deaf.
No one can. Don't worry.
It's actually why they named it that.
Just fuck with us all. Yeah, and I tell people consequently that my Hebrew is terrible too because I grew up deaf, and so I had to learn Hebrew by reading it. So when I speak Hebrew, it is atrocious, and I warn everyone ahead of time. You don't want me speaking Hebrew? Ask my mom; she'll speak Hebrew. I think it's an interesting idea. I know I have some friends who are really kind of behind it. I'm still kind of on the fence.
Can I just jump in just for a second? Like my big thing about Deuteronomy and like the Deuteronomic history is that it largely precedes the Babylonian exile for the most part. And I think the sort of telltale sign for me is that, first of all, Mount Sinai is almost entirely unmentioned throughout the book of Deuteronomy. And so, the story about receiving Torah at Mount Sinai, Isaiah is entirely unaware of this. In fact, he says, Chi mitzion tetzei Torah. From Mount Zion in its Torah comes forth Torah. U'devar Adonai Yerushalayim, the word of God in Jerusalem. And so, I think that there's no, you cannot emphasize the fact enough that the order in which we read the Bible is not obviously, it's not the one that, it's not how it was written. And I think, that's why I think this chart that I am sort of compiling is actually, a much more compelling, to me, the final redactor is actually telling a very clear story of the return from the Babylonian exile. It is the return to Zion. That's that is the narrative arc from Genesis to Deuteronomy, and it's the narrative arc from Genesis to Chronicles 2. The last verse in Chronicles 2 is all about King Cyrus saying, "Go back into the land." And to me, that's setting the precedent because that's the last verse in the entire Tanakh. It is also incorporating things that come much later than Second Chronicles amidst that sort of narrative arc, which is to say that no matter where you are, the goal is to return. That's sort of the voice of the Tanakh.
Sure, but the redactor is preserving the contradictions in the flood account. I mean, you can debate Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 and Titus and pretzels, but flood account is very interwoven.
So what I'm actually advocating is that the Garden of Eden story is actually a hall of mirrors of the Babylonian exile itself. That the Adam was created outside the garden and placed into the garden. In other words, they were placed, the Adam was created somewhere west of Eden, which is to say west of Iraq, and then placed into the gardens of Babylon. So I'm comparing Genesis 2 and 3 with Jeremiah 29 and Jeremiah 39.
I think you would enjoy Handel because he takes the opposite approach and he puts he puts Eden in the Akkadian period and he draws parallels to the author's reticence of empire and the reference to Nimrod being very Akkadian-esque and of king.
For one, definitely.
No. I think Genesis 1. I think Genesis 1 is exilic or post-exilic because it's responding to the luminary leash. It's giving this polemic against the Marduk story. But Genesis 2...
Luminary leash is the Akkadian creation myth.
Yeah, but the idea is the exiles would have encountered this in Babylon during the New Year festival every year. And it has this very
Zoroastrianism. That's what I'm saying. They would
but I think it would handle because the Akkadian, the old Akkadian Empire, the pre-Neo-Babylonian Empire elements in non-P in Genesis, I think are quite compelling. And he brings it all together with this like anti-Akkadian Empire polemic which is playing out. And the play in Genesis 2 with the Epic of Gilgamesh and certain aspects of that story, and as Dr. Joshua Bowen put me onto a long time ago, which was amazing, Dapper and the Breaking of the Wing of the South Wind. And there's also another wonderful book that Dr. Bowen got me to read, which was From a Dapper to Enoch, which is phenomenal. It's a very, very good book. Very dense, but very good.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'd probably be on the complete opposite extreme. I tend to date even most of P as being pre-exilic. And like in terms of like the Enuma Elish in Genesis 1, you also have to remember that like in the 13th century, Ugarit in Canaan, they already had an influence from that kind of a motif, like in the Baal cycle, for example. So I wouldn't see any reason.
I love the Baal cycle, but like the Baal cycle is an establishment of kingship. It's not a creation ethic. It has some parallels with temple building, but Baal is like basically asserting himself as the successor to El in the Baal cycle and beating off Yam and Mot. And the Enuma Elish is more a core creation, from the beginning of world creation.
Yeah, but I think there's enough influence between Enuma Elish and Baal cycle that, like, I think that the motifs that you need to get the P creation narrative, I think you have evidence that you can have that without.
Which way around do you think the influence went? Do you think the Baal cycle influenced the Enuma Elish or the other way around?
I mean, it's difficult to say because they both come up, as far as I can tell, around the same time.
Around the same time.
People often assume that it's West Semitic bars from Akkadian. Oh, I just heard myself. But it's not. Yeah, you're good. I think that. Yeah, you probably need more evidence to point one way or the other. I don't think you can make that assumption.
Exactly, the directionality is up for play.
Chet, don't you see, not correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there Uritic, as far as in the post-exilic period, isn't there Uritic influence, for that 1,000-year period?
No, I mean, some of that culture, probably, yeah, I would say. Ugarit specifically, we're talking about the city. It ceased to exist in like 1,300.
So
that would be possibly 100 years or so before you even have Israel.
And they found in Ugarit the kilns of the messages asking for help in the ruins.
Right.
They found tablets and saying they were under attack.
Have you ever done like a comparison between the Mephistopheles and Song of the Sea?
Oh, I have not. I've heard there might be some parallel there.
Yeah, I have a couple good slides that really show. I mean, it's almost parallel, syntax. It's pretty, and just the way that they're talking about the other nations, and
that's one. Yeah, and what's interesting, so the Song of the Sea, this is a very old poem that we find in Exodus 15, for anyone who doesn't know. Now, this is one where just by reading it, you can absolutely tell that you're reading something older, with the enclitic mems and the energy noons, stuff that eventually, even in what we would call early biblical Hebrew, it reflects a dialect even earlier than that. So that's interesting that there would be parallel with the Merneptah stele. That's about where someone like like David Friedman or Frank Cross would want an atheist.
Bible nerds, but let me introduce our next.
Hey, I love all you Bible nerds, but let me introduce our next panelist, James. Can I get your age for TikTok purposes?
Are you a Christian or a believer of the God of the Bible?
I am 29.
Are you a Christian or a believer of the God of the Bible?
I am a friend. I'm an attending member at a meeting, the Quakers, if you've heard of them.
And so
I was a Quaker. Yeah, I have heard of the Quakers. And so, did you have a question for the rabbis today?
What did you want to come up for?
Not particularly.
What did you want to come up for?
At the moment, I was just listening. I would happy to be to join in the discussion.
He's waiting for the spirit to move him.
To be fair, that at the moment I was listening along, that did kind of go over my head. I kind of consider myself like a layman. So I personally have the relationship with the Bible that I grew up in a very scripture-oriented church or congregation among the Wesleyans. And as I got older, I kind of now moved towards the more folk Christianity, or the more open-ended, continued revelation. And we're here 2,000 years.
Ohio Valley.
I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm from Pennsylvania.
Pretty close.
From central Pennsylvania, so just outside of Harrisburg.
Well, we don't want him to dox himself.
North of Harrisburg.
We don't want him to dox himself.
We don't want him to dox himself.
Sorry.
We don't have a problem sharing that I do kind of approach the internet with are you serious personality. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that. I'm hearing a lot of familiar sort of language, and
And that's a part of it, yeah. It's a very familiar method of understanding Christianity. It's more like the interpersonal relationship between people and then the friendships that they have, manifesting that brotherhood or fellowship that gets people through life, like the recognition of the inner life between people, that sort of thing. But that's obviously not. I wouldn't consider that super biblical. So if you had any more information about how that all relates to the Bible, I haven't really deconstructed all that. I'm more of like a modern Bayard Rustin kind of Quaker,
I don't.
If you know. I don't know if you know Bayard Rustin.
I think that like the Appalachian and Ohio Valley and central Pennsylvania sort of Christianity really comes out of like the English puritanical movement and that sort of thing. And I think it's like a really fascinating chapter of American history. There's a great movie called The Songcatcher that features Emmy Rossum from I think it's from the late 80s, maybe early 90s. But like the reality is like this sort of version of Christianity is, I think, like the Huguenots and sort of religious fundamentalists that left England because they were, they claimed that they were coming to America for religious freedom. We call them the Pilgrims. But in reality, they were religious fundamentalists who were kicked out of England because they were trying to take over the Parliament. And so the way that we learn about the Pilgrims and the Puritans is very different from the way that English people learn about the Pilgrims and the Puritans. For whatever that's worth, but not to do with the Bible.
Well, listen, you guys. I want to thank everybody for being here. We did it.
Well, listen, you guys.
No, it's okay.
I want to thank everybody for being here. We did it.
Okay, but we are.
It's okay. We didn't meet our gift goal today, and that's okay. But we are so close to 100,000, so I'm going to talk for a second. Keep tapping on the screen while I do that. And then we have
11 a.m.
Hebrew class tomorrow in my Discord. Make sure you join tomorrow 11 a.m. to noon. You're going to love it. If you can't make it for the actual class, if you still join my Discord, the link is in my bio. You can go and Ty here is amazing. She's recording them and putting them in the Discord.
Oh, noon tomorrow. It's noon to class.
Noon tomorrow.
Noon tomorrow. I'm so sorry. Noon tomorrow, guys. I forgot we're doing a little bit later tomorrow.
Public defender.
Noon. Did you get that?
Also, I want to address a couple of things.
Devil's public defender.
Noon tomorrow.
Also, I want to address a couple of things that I see in noon tomorrow.
Yeah, Pacific
time.
What?
Noon Pacific time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Pacific
And
time.
Chad, just so you know, we are literally going through the alphabet and getting it done. So, like,
Awesome.
I would love to be there. That sounds awesome.
Okay, I want to
Awesome! Yay! Awesome. Okay, I want to address a couple things in the chat. First of all, okay, I want to address one thing to a lot of my haters out there. When you hate me and you come in and the first thing you do is attack my age, I want to tell you something, okay? And for all of you listening out there, you're going to grow older. You're going to, or you're going to die. Those are the only two choices we have in this world. And as you grow older, your eyesight starts to go. You start seeing tons of wrinkles. Okay, that happens. Your skin changes, your hair changes. Everything about you changes. But inside, you don't feel that way, okay? Inside, you're still you. You're just you with an old shell on, okay? And I don't want any of my followers, the ones who follow me because they like what I do, I don't want you guys to ever feel bad about getting older.
It's not easy to survive.
You're a fucking survivor, first of all. It's not easy to survive in this fucking planet, okay? And we don't have to give in to this idea that we're not allowed to age. That is a bullshit idea that people shouldn't age and that we should feel bad when we do. That is so stupid and it's weird, okay?
We get arthritis.
People age. We lose our hair. We get wrinkles. We get arthritis. And there's nothing morally wrong with that. And there's nothing that should make you feel bad about that, okay? If you are older and you're a grandma or grandpa, wear the fucking badge with pride because I do. And I just don't want people to go around. I hear some of you. You're like 30 and y'all are complaining already because you're like, oh my God, I'm so old. No, you're not, bitch. You're just a baby, okay?
Thank you very much.
If for some reason you are lucky enough to live as long as I have,
for some reason you are lucky enough to live as long as I have or longer, you know, you're going to be, you're going to look back at the way you were in ages to people my age, and you're going to realize how stupid it was.
Like,
it's stupid to be ages. What are you doing? Like, I can't stand when people my age treat younger people like they're less than just because they're younger. And I cannot stand it when you younger people think that insulting people for their age is like some kind of moral judgment on them. It has nothing to do with my morals. I just fucking survived this god-awful planet for all these years. I think what you're really pissed about is that you haven't been shut me up yet. And I'm not gonna shut up, okay? I'm here, bitch. What you gonna do about it, okay? Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about is why I do this. I get that all the time too. Why, if you don't believe, are you studying the Bible? Why?
Stop talking.
Are you serious? First of all, you won't let us stop talking about it.
Put it in
You shove it down our fucking throats at every chance you get. Put it in the schools. Make sure everybody says Merry Christmas, not Happy Holidays. Make sure everybody knows Jesus is Lord. And then why are you talking about him? Why are you discussing our book? Why? You sound ridiculous. Let me tell you something. Right now, we have a federal government who are telling our military that they are fighting a holy war. They are doing this for divine reasons.
And I'll be
People are dying because of your stupid belief. And I'll be damned if I do not educate myself and anybody else who wants to go along with me on that education.
People are dying.
I am not going to sit here and remain ignorant while people are dying because of this book.
You go do that.
I want to know the truth about it. If you want to sit in your ignorance, you go do that. I'm not going to do it.
Is what gets
I
us
refuse
places
to.
like Shitler. And
I'm sorry, but
we
ignorance
are
is what gets us in places like Shitler, and we're headed there.
And it's because
we are already there. I don't know why I'm saying headed
and
there.
I will not
be that.
And it's because people chose to remain ignorant. And I will not be that person. So why do I keep talking about it? Because you won't shut up and leave us alone about it. Now, if you all want to fucking go back to practicing your religion in your home and get it out of my fucking schools and out of my fucking government and out of my fucking life, then I'll shut up about it. But until that day, I will not.
Sorry about that.
And that is why.
Anyway,
Micro.
So I will. Thank you so much for all your gifts and all your likes. We got over 100,000.
Thank you so much, everybody, for all your gifts and all your likes. We got over 100,000. I really appreciate it. I will be at Non-Believers Bible study tomorrow. I am not going to have Decon Q&A this week. By the way, it is possibly the last atheist Sunday school ever. So if you can show up for Mezzo Sunday School on Sunday. But I will be back Monday, right here at 10 a.m. Pacific time for conversations. So I hope you guys will join me then. You guys have anything that you want to say before we go?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for the live because it's I mean, it's I think Rav, I just want to check with Rav because I heard something, but I'm not sure I heard it because it blew my mind. I resonate quite strongly with exile and the loss of a homeland. So it kind of makes sense, and and just the whole kind of.
Can I, Crystal? I don't mean like I know that you're logging off. I think people don't realize that Jews have for thousands of years been longing for a home, and I think the problem is. You have people, extremist governments throughout the world who oppress people and do horrible things. But the reality is, there are people all over the internet who say that Zionism is a bad thing and that being Jewish is somehow not connected to Israel in some way, shape, or form. And I think, the reality is that people fail to ask Jews what Zionism means. People fail to ask anybody what anything means and fail to have deep nuanced conversations with anybody because we are so staunch in our silos. And to Crystal's main point, we have a extremist government in power in our country right now that is using any violence that it perceives on the left to further push people to the right. And what I see about to happen is a disjointed left about to lose another election, about to lose the entire House, and about to lose the entire presidency again. Trump will not be reelected. He will not go for a third term, but we will have somebody like Nick Fuentes. We will have somebody who is extreme right who takes over because young men in this country are angry and are being told by people like Andrew Tate and Nick Fuentes and whoever the else fuck is yelling in their ear that they should be angry. We are going to be pushed further and further right, and the left is going to be further and further disjointed. And the extremism is only going to take further and further root, and marginalized people are going to be unalived. And the reality is that if we can't actually come to terms with real numbers and real facts and have difficult conversations and get out of our own sort of way, our own sort of staunch opinions on things, we're never going to be able to progress. And so I open the door to the difficult conversations. And I think, this particular war is more complex than I think the media is willing to discuss. I have just recently posted a video on my own page that I think speaks to this. I think that we don't realize that Iran.
No, you cut out.
You cut out, Rabbi.
Yeah, sorry, I got a phone call from the telemarketer. We don't realize that Iran is the number one state sponsor of terror throughout the world. We don't realize that Iran is the number one producer of drones for Russia, who's decimating the Ukrainian people. We don't realize that the entire Middle East is right now.
Another telemarketer call. Hang on.
I think he got another telemarketer call. Hang on.
It's a CIA otter. It's a CIA calling round.
It's a CIA otter. It's a CIA calling round.
I love that.
Suspense is killing me too.
Rob. The suspense is killing me too.
You know, the scary thing is that when you actually read that comment and you think that there's probably more truth in it than fiction.
You guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for 112.
Sign of the times.
I know.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, you've been
Did I get cut out? I was talking the whole time.
Yeah, you've been cut out. We couldn't hear
Oh my fucking god. Son of a bitch. Oh man, it's so annoying. Okay, so I'm so frustrated because we're just not talking to each other. Nobody is having the important conversations. What I said was, nobody realizes that Iran is like one of the greatest sponsors of state terror throughout the world. Nobody realizes that Iran that is producing all of the drones that are decimating Ukrainian people by Russia. Nobody is talking about the fact that literally all of these Arab nations are coming together to fight against this. Nobody realizes that women are taking off their hijab for the first time in decades and dancing in the street with their hair showing, which is a crime punishable by unalivement in Iran. Nobody's talking about the fact that this could actually liberate people from being child brides. I mean, we talk about the Epstein shit with like 14-year-olds, and these people are marrying them on a regular basis. Absolutely. Like this is a common practice. So let's have some real fucking conversations. And by the way, I'm having a full-on crash out right now, and I apologize. But this is like all-consuming for me because the reality is that we are a generation who knows the devastating effects of a long-term zero-sum war that just kills people, that just decimates people from top to bottom. Yeah. And I think that everybody in their right mind should be against that kind of war. And also, we have to realize that is no longer the type of war that's being fought. That they have already done what they had expected to do in less than a week. I'm sure that everybody's going to be like that.
You don't need to apologize. I just asked for advice on Brother Bottom to hold new conversations. I don't want to say another conversation. Does anybody want to say goodbye? Rabbi Hannah, thank you so much. You were amazing today. We finished number 6. You were amazing today. We finished number 6. Here are all my promotions. Listen to everything I have to say. I have a podcast. Here are all my promotions. Listen to everything I have to say. I have a podcast called Auntie Sermons. If you love live Auntie Sermons that I do here a couple times a week, go check out my podcast. That's where you're going to find them, okay? It's everywhere you listen to podcasts. I have an album. It's called Ex Partes, the Deconstruction album. Go listen to that. A Seat at the Table is another album by me. Look for the artist CrystalJae. A Seat at the Table is a triptych. It is 3 parts, and it's amazing, and it's very relevant to what's happening in the world today. Also, I will be live Monday right here at 10 a.m. and I will see you all on the mean streets of TikTok and YouTube. Go away, Benny Boy, and tell him Crystal loves him. Have a great day, everybody. Bye. Have a